That's it. If you can't follow my orders, you're fired. After completing an overseas training program, I returned to the head office for the first time in 2 years. Mr. Irwin, the company president, to a business meeting to present our products. Unfortunately, the deal fell through. Mr. Irwin blamed the failure on me. It's because you didn't follow my instructions and instead rambled on about your usual pipe dreams. That's why we lost the deal. And just like that, I was fired. But then, I got a phone call. It was from a beautiful young lady from one of our client companies. I can't stop thinking about you. Would you work for us? How does an annual salary of $500,000 sound? What? That single call would soon shake the entire industry. As the sun began to rise, I stood nervously in front of the head office building of KenDrive Engineering. It had been 2 years. After finishing my training in Germany, I had finally returned to the main office. Taking a deep breath, I stepped through the glass automatic doors. The moment I entered the lobby, a familiar scent greeted me. The unique mix of machine oil and coffee, it instantly brought back memories. I couldn't help but recall my humble beginnings. Coming from a poor family, working in a prestigious office like this had once seemed like an unattainable dream. My parents were factory workers, struggling daily to make ends meet. Growing up, I lived with my siblings in a cramped, old apartment in a public housing complex. At school, while my classmates flaunted the latest toys and clothes, I wore hand-me-downs and used second-hand textbooks. To escape that reality, I immersed myself in the world of imagination. I devoured books, falling in love with sci-fi novels and biographies of inventors. I was especially captivated by stories of people who rose from poverty to create inventions that changed the world. Inventors like Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla deeply influenced me. Someday, I'll create something that changes the world, too, I promised myself. I spent most of my time outside of school coming up with unconventional ideas. I imagined bold and fearless inventions, ignoring the constraints of the real world. This habit shaped my so-called dreamy personality over time. Because I knew the harshness of reality, holding on to dreams that surpassed those limits became my source of hope. And now, I had the chance to make those dreams come true. In this company, I was going to build an engine that would change the world. Welcome back, Ryan. The receptionist greeted me with a bright smile. I couldn't help but smile back. Thank you. It's good to be back. I stepped into the elevator and pressed the button for the 5th floor, where the development department was located. When the doors opened, familiar faces immediately welcomed me with cheerful voices. Everyone was smiling. Ryan, welcome back. We've been waiting for you. Hey, everyone. Thanks for the warm welcome. I replied, scratching my head awkwardly as the floor erupted in laughter. How was your training in Germany? It was a great learning experience. I made some exciting discoveries, especially in designing motors for electric vehicles. There's potential to achieve efficiency that defies conventional wisdom. Hearing this, the eyes of the engineers around me lit up. Wow, that's incredible. Ryan, you've always amazed us with your insights, and it seems you're at it again. No, I'm still learning. But I hope we can all work together to develop the most advanced engines in the world. I said to my colleagues, heading toward my desk. The layout was exactly the same as 2 years ago. However, the equipment around me seemed to have been upgraded. On my desk, there was a piece of paper that read "Welcome back," with messages from everyone in the development department. I couldn't help but feel touched. All right, time to give it my all. I said to myself, renewing my determination as I powered on my computer. The screen lit up brightly. And then it happened. Well. The slacker's finally back. A cold voice said from behind me. I turned around to see none other than Kenneth Irwin, the company president and my former best friend. His eyes were icy, evaluating me as if I were a mere asset. The atmosphere in the room instantly froze. Long time no see, Kenneth. I greeted him in a calm tone. But Kenneth simply scoffed at me. Now that you're back, make sure you work hard enough to recover the money we invested in your training. Stop chasing dreams for once. I get it, Kenneth. I'll give it everything I've got. But I'm not giving up on my dreams, I replied, meeting his gaze head-on. For a moment, I thought I saw hesitation flash in his eyes, but it quickly disappeared. As Kenneth walked away, concerned looks were directed at me from the others. Everyone knew we had once been close friends. And now, they knew things weren't the same between us. Don't worry, everyone. Let's give it our all together, I said with a smile, trying to ease their worries, though I felt conflicted inside. The rift between me and my old friend was undeniable. But I didn't want anyone else to worry about it. After the others returned to their work, I turned back to my computer. Yet my mind couldn't help but wander to the past I shared with Kenneth. I met Kenneth in college. We were both in the engineering department and shared a passion for developing car engines, so becoming friends was inevitable. On the rooftop of the engineering building, bathed in the light of the setting sun, we often talked about the future. Kenneth, I've come up with another world-changing engine. It runs on air as fuel, no emissions at all. In fact, the more it runs, the cleaner the air gets. It could even work in space or underwater. What do you think? Kenneth would give me a look that was half exasperated, half intrigued. Come on, Ryan. That completely defies the laws of physics. This isn't a sci-fi novel. No, it's totally possible. No one's thought of it yet, that's all. With this engine, we could solve environmental problems. Humanity would be free to travel from the ends of the earth to the edges of the universe. It's a wonderful dream, I'll give you that. But big things like that don't just happen overnight. You need to start with the basics. Whenever I went off on a passionate tangent, Kenneth would calmly ground me in reality. Maybe because of my poor upbringing, I always had a habit of dreaming up things that seemed impossible. I was often mocked for being such a dreamer. But Kenneth was different. When people laughed at me, Kenneth would defend me, saying, "Sure, Ryan's dreams might sound too big or unrealistic. But remember, most of the groundbreaking inventions or discoveries in history were laughed at in the beginning. When the Wright brothers said humans could fly, everyone probably thought it was a joke. Ryan has a passion and creativity that we don't. Instead of mocking his dreams, why not chase your own?" Kenneth came from a wealthy family and had a sharp eye for reality. His pragmatism and social skills were things I lacked. On the other hand, my passion and technical expertise were things Kenneth didn't possess. That's why we believed we were the perfect team. We complemented each other's weaknesses, united in the pursuit of a big dream. At least, that's what we had promised each other. After graduating from college, we didn't hesitate, we started a company together. The name KenDrive Engineering embodied our dreams and passion. It was a coined term that combined Ken from Kenneth's name and drive, representing my drive and energy. It also symbolized our ambition to bring new energy to the engine industry, combining Kenneth's business acumen with my technical skills. At first, things went smoothly. We built a solid track record improving existing engine designs, and the company gradually grew. Finally, we took the first step toward our dream, developing a groundbreaking new engine. This is it, Kenneth. With this engine, we can improve fuel efficiency by over 50%, and emissions are almost zero, I said excitedly, showing him the blueprint. His eyes sparkled with excitement. That's amazing, Ryan. This could revolutionize the industry. But reality wasn't so kind. Creating the prototype proved challenging, and the budget kept ballooning. Although the completed prototype showed innovative performance, it had durability issues. Just a little more time, Kenneth. I'll perfect it for sure, I pleaded, pouring my heart into the project. But the company's finances were spiraling downward. "Ryan, it's time to give up," Kenneth said one day. His eyes were filled with exhaustion. "What are you talking about?" "If we give up now, our dream." "Our dream?" "This company will go under if we keep going like this." "Face reality," Kenneth shouted, slamming his hand on the desk. The sharp sound startled me for a moment. "We need to change course. The strength of our company lies in improving existing engines. We should focus on securing more deals with major automakers and stabilizing the company. That's what matters now," he continued. "But our dream is to create a revolutionary new engine." "I know. I don't want to give it up either. But now's the time for patience. We need to keep the company alive so we can revisit that dream later. Right now, we have to make practical decisions, Ryan." We argued fiercely. It was our first major fight. Kenneth's words were logical and convincing, but my heart refused to accept them. In the end, the new engine project was shelved, and we shifted our focus to improving existing products. The company managed to survive, but a rift formed between Kenneth and me. I felt powerless and realized how much I still had to learn. That's when I volunteered for the training program in Germany. 2 years passed. I returned with new knowledge and skills, determined to pick up where we left off. But my relationship with Kenneth had not healed. Even so, I hadn't given up. I was determined to make our dream come true. And I will restore my bond with Kenneth. With that resolve, I turned my focus to the work in front of me. As the morning sun reflected brightly off the skyscrapers, Kenneth and I entered the headquarters of Highridge Corporation. Highridge Corporation was one of Japanese leading comprehensive automakers. With over a century of history, it had earned global recognition. The company was especially known for its heavy investment in environmental technology, leading the industry in next-generation eco-friendly vehicles. Just before the elevator reached the top floor, Kenneth firmly grabbed my shoulder. "Listen, Ryan. Today's negotiation must succeed," he said, his eyes dead serious. I nodded, slightly unsure but willing. "Yeah, I know. I'll give it everything I've got." "No, you don't get it. The focus today is on our existing engine models. Keep your new ideas to yourself for now." "But," I stammered. "Just listen. The survival of the company depends on this. You handle the technical explanations, but stick to the script. Focus only on the strengths of our existing products. Whatever it takes, close this deal and contribute to the company," Kenneth said firmly. I was at a loss for words. It was true that our existing products had a proven track record and were the safer option. But what about our dream? Do you understand? Kenneth's voice broke through my thoughts. "Yeah," I replied reluctantly. Only then did Kenneth release his grip on my shoulder. The elevator doors opened. We both took a deep breath and headed to the conference room. As we opened the door, a strikingly beautiful woman stood waiting for us. She had long black hair and a poised demeanor. Her eyes sparkled with intelligence. I couldn't help but catch my breath. "Thank you for coming. I'm Olivia, the head of development at Highridge Corporation," she said, her voice firm yet gentle. I felt my heartbeat quicken. "Thank you for having us. I'm Kenneth Irwin from KenDrive Engineering," Kenneth said, stepping forward to introduce himself. I hurried to follow suit. "I'm Ryan, also from KenDrive Engineering. Pleased to meet you," I stammered, feeling my face flush with heat. Olivia smiled kindly. "Likewise, it's a pleasure to meet you. Now, could you please share more details about your product?" she said as everyone took their seats. I took a deep breath and opened my laptop with slightly trembling hands. As I prepared the presentation, I tried to steady my unsettled emotions. "Let me introduce our latest engine. I began, projecting the first slide onto the screen. Our flagship product, the GT2000 series, achieves a balance between fuel efficiency and power. Compared to previous models, it improves fuel efficiency by 15% and increases maximum output by 5%. Olivia listened intently, her expression serious. Every time I felt her sharp gaze, my heart would race. The urge to discuss our new technology bubbled within me, but I remembered Kenneth's warning and restrained myself. This graph highlights the performance improvements, particularly in mid to low speed ranges. Additionally, the engine has demonstrated high reliability, with only a 2% performance degradation after 100 hours of continuous operation. The GT2000 combines high efficiency, power, and reliability, making it a next-generation flagship engine. When I finished, I noticed a faint expression of dissatisfaction on Olivia's face. She leaned forward slightly, arms crossed, and asked, "Ryan, the improvements in the GT2000 are impressive. But isn't there a more innovative application for this technology?" Her question struck a chord within me. Kenneth's instructions faded into the background as I took a deep breath and began to speak. "Actually, we've been developing a revolutionary new engine technology," I said, unable to contain my excitement. "Could you elaborate?" Olivia asked, her curiosity evident. I couldn't hold back and launched into my explanation. This engine fundamentally redefines conventional concepts. It improves fuel efficiency by over 50% and reduces emissions to nearly zero. Moreover, it is highly compatible with renewable energy sources. It can efficiently convert solar and wind-generated electricity into driving power, enabling completely clean operation without relying on traditional batteries. It's a unique approach, distinct from pure electric vehicles. I could see the sparkle in Olivia's eyes grow brighter. Encouraged, I continued with even more enthusiasm. Additionally, we've succeeded in miniaturizing the engine. It's 40% smaller and 35% lighter than traditional engines, significantly increasing design flexibility for vehicle manufacturers. This allows for a seamless integration of aerodynamics and aesthetics, further enhancing fuel efficiency. As I caught my breath, I watched Olivia's reaction. Her face clearly showed intrigue and anticipation. Just as she was about to speak, Kenneth cleared his throat, cutting in. "Excuse me. Regarding the new technology Ryan mentioned, it hasn't been formally approved as an official development project within our company. At this stage, it remains a personal research endeavor. Unfortunately, it's not aligned with the primary focus of today's proposal. We apologize for the deviation." Kenneth gave me a stern look as he spoke. I was at a loss for words. Olivia appeared slightly perplexed but quickly regained her calm composure. "I see. I understand the situation. However, I'm very interested in that technology," she said. Kenneth hurriedly added, "For today, we hope you'll consider our existing products. As for the new technology, if your company is interested, we'd be happy to discuss it at a later date." Olivia paused, deep in thought, before nodding gracefully. "Understood. However, I must apologize. We currently have agreements with other companies for similar products, so it's difficult to initiate new transactions at this time." The atmosphere in the room froze. I could see the color drain from Kenneth's face. "I see," he stammered, his voice trembling. Olivia continued apologetically. "I'm very impressed by your company's technological capabilities. In particular, I find the new technology Ryan mentioned extremely intriguing. If the development progresses, I would love to hear from you again." "Understood. Thank you for your time," Kenneth replied, his voice hollow. As we left the conference room, a heavy sense of disappointment weighed on our shoulders. In the elevator, Kenneth suddenly turned to me, his eyes blazing with anger. "This is your fault, Ryan. You ignored my instructions and started rambling about your usual pipe dreams, and that's why we lost the deal. What are you talking about, Kenneth? Didn't Olivia clearly explain it? They've already contracted similar products with other companies. It wasn't going to work, I protested. If you had emphasized our product's strengths more effectively, they might have chosen us instead. That's it. I've had enough. If you can't follow my orders, you're fired. I stared at him in shock. Are you serious, Kenneth? Have you forgotten our promise? To create an engine that would change the world together? Promise? Wake up. You can't run a company on fantasies. There's no such thing as an engine that can change the world. Stop chasing dreams and face reality. Kenneth shouted, his voice rising. I tried to respond, but at that moment, the elevator arrived on the ground floor and the doors opened. Kenneth stepped out without looking back, his shoulders trembling with anger. I stood there, frozen, replaying his words in my mind. The words of my once best friend cut into me like a blade. Anger began to rise within me. Fine. I'll quit. I never thought you'd turn into someone like this. I yelled as I stepped out of the elevator. Kenneth didn't respond. He didn't even look back. Was this really the end of our relationship? The thought filled me with a mix of sadness and fury. The next morning, when I arrived at the office with my resignation letter in hand, the atmosphere was heavy and somber. Ryan, is it true that you're leaving? Simon, a senior developer, approached me with a worried expression. I gave him a small nod. Immediately, the entire office buzzed with murmurs. What's going to happen to the development team without Ryan? What is Mr. Irwin even thinking? I could hear whispers spreading around the office. Ryan, we'll talk to Mr. Irwin on your behalf. Yeah, let's get everyone to sign a petition or something. If Ryan leaves, there's no future for this company. Their words filled my chest with warmth. But I shook my head. Thank you, everyone. But I've already made up my mind. Thanks to all of you, I've learned so much here. I'm truly grateful, I said. A heavy silence filled the air. After a moment, Simon placed a hand on my shoulder. I see. I understand your resolve. It'll be lonely without you, but good luck, he said. Gradually, the other co-workers began to nod in agreement. I picked up my resignation letter from my desk and headed toward Kenneth's office. After knocking, I stepped inside to find Kenneth staring out the window. An oppressive silence filled the room. He slowly turned around but avoided meeting my gaze. What do you want? His voice was devoid of emotion. Carefully choosing my words, I responded calmly. My resignation. The sound of the paper hitting the desk broke the silence. Kenneth glanced at the letter but showed no reaction. Anything else? No. Kenneth asked in a matter-of-fact tone, and I responded with the same lack of emotion. He silently accepted my resignation letter and stamped it. In his actions, there was no longer any trace of emotion toward me. That concludes the procedure. I nodded silently. Goodbye, I said, turning to leave without looking back. As I stepped out of the office, I found my co-workers waiting for me. We exchanged farewell words, handshakes, and even a few hugs, saying our goodbyes with heavy hearts. After packing up my desk, I left the company. Standing at the entrance, the familiar scent of the office hit me one last time. Goodbye, I murmured quietly, and walked away from KenDrive Engineering. A few days passed after submitting my resignation. I spent my time in my small apartment, searching for my next opportunity. One afternoon, my phone suddenly rang. It was an unfamiliar number, but I decided to answer. Hello, this is Ryan. Hello, Ryan. This is Olivia. I instinctively straightened up upon hearing her voice. Olivia, what can I do for you? I haven't been able to stop thinking about you, specifically about the new environmentally friendly engine concept you mentioned during the meeting. It's been on my mind ever since. You mean, that meeting? I asked, surprised. Yes. I reached out to one of your former colleagues to get your contact information. I hope you don't mind me calling you like this. Not at all. I replied quickly, shaking my head even though she couldn't see me. I heard Olivia chuckle softly. Ryan, I can hear you shaking your head even over the phone, she said warmly. Embarrassed, I stammered, I'm sorry. Don't worry about it, she reassured me. So, Ryan, about that new technology, has there been any progress since then? I'd love to hear more details. Olivia spoke gently. Her words pulled me back to reality. Taking a deep breath, I resolved to explain the situation. Olivia, actually, I'm no longer with KenDrive Engineering. I was fired. So, about that new technology, I heard her gasp softly on the other end of the line. But she quickly regained her composure. I see. In that case, Ryan, I have a proposal for you, she said. A proposal? Yes. Why don't you come work for us? What? I could hardly believe my ears. Olivia continued in a cheerful voice. How about an annual salary of, let's say, $500,000? $500,000? A few days after Olivia's shocking offer, I found myself standing in front of the Highridge Corporation headquarters once again. This time, I was here to hear the details. Taking a deep breath, I walked confidently into the lobby. After giving my name at the reception, Olivia's secretary quickly appeared. Ryan, thank you for coming. Please follow me, the secretary said. I stepped into the elevator and rode to the top floor. When the doors opened, Olivia was there to greet me. Ryan, thank you for coming, she said, welcoming me with a radiant smile. Please, this way, she added, leading me into a spacious conference room. From the large windows, the city stretched out in a breathtaking view, and I couldn't help but gasp. What a stunning view, I remarked. Olivia smiled warmly. It is, isn't it? I love it too. We both settled into the soft, plush sofas, and Olivia's expression turned serious. Ryan, I'd like to get straight to the point today. I'd like you to take on the position of director of the newly established Environmental Technology Development Department, she said. I leaned forward in surprise. Director? Yes, she confirmed. I've prepared an environment where you can fully unleash your innovative ideas. The latest equipment, a talented team, and a generous budget all at your disposal. Olivia pulled out a tablet and displayed blueprints on the screen. This is the new research facility we've designed for you. It features state-of-the-art experimental equipment, 3D printers, and high-performance computer systems, all to bring your ideas to life. I couldn't suppress a gasp. What lay before me was a dream research facility. And here are the terms of your employment, she said, placing a document in front of me. In addition to the $500,000 salary, it included performance-based bonuses, stock options, and comprehensive benefits. The conditions were extraordinary. All of this is an investment in your talent. Ryan, will you join us in shaping the future of the automotive industry? She asked, her earnest eyes locking onto mine. I was speechless. Inside, a mix of excitement and uncertainty swirled. Olivia, I'm incredibly grateful for such an amazing offer. But why are you willing to invest so much in me? Olivia fell silent for a moment at my question. Her expression softened as she looked at me with a nostalgic gaze. Taking a deep breath, she spoke quietly. Ryan, the truth is, meeting you has profoundly changed my life, she said. Her words made me instinctively lean forward, eager to hear more. When I was young, I was always aware of my role as an heiress. My days were packed with schedules, piano lessons, tea ceremony, English classes. One after another, I went through them all. I hardly had any time to play with friends, and as a result, I never made any real friends. Olivia's voice carried a faint hint of sadness. In those times, my only solace was reading books. I especially loved science fiction and adventure stories. Staying up late into the night absorbed in them. The worlds within those books became both a refuge from reality and a window to a future full of possibilities. Watching the protagonists overcome challenges and realize their dreams resonated deeply with me and gave me courage. Olivia's eyes gazed into the distance, a nostalgic smile appearing on her face. I found myself nodding unconsciously. I, too, had been saved by the world of books. The time I spent immersed in those imaginary worlds was when I was happiest. In those moments, I could forget my responsibilities as a young lady and the expectations placed on me. In the pages of those books, I was free to dream, to become a scientist changing the world with new technology, or an astronaut exploring uncharted planets. Olivia gave a slightly embarrassed laugh. Maybe they were childish dreams, but they were what fueled me, she said. I listened intently, deeply resonating with her words. I, too, had experienced how dreams nurtured in books could become a driving force in the real world. Her words created an invisible bond between us. But whenever I talked about those dreams, my father would always scold me, saying, "Stop dreaming. Look at reality." He said it over and over. Olivia continued, taking a deep breath and closing her eyes as if recalling those moments. I could feel her pain so clearly that I clenched my fists without realizing it. But 3 years ago, at an automotive technology exhibition, I attended your lecture. The future you described was exactly like the world I had imagined in those books, eco-friendly and high-performance engines. Everyone in the audience laughed, saying it was impossible, she said. I was stunned. I never expected her to remember that event so vividly. But you didn't give up. Instead, their reactions seemed to ignite a fire within you, and you explained with even more passion. Watching you, I felt ashamed of my own weakness. At the same time, you gave me courage, she said, her eyes sparkling with determination. Her words filled my chest with warmth. I realized, that's right. I can't give up, either. Just because I'm an heiress doesn't mean I have to suppress my dreams. If anything, I should use my position to pursue my beliefs more boldly and passionately. Olivia's words were powerful. I found myself nodding without thinking. Since that day, I've had the courage to stick to my convictions. Despite opposition from my superiors, I kept proposing ideas until I finally launched a project to develop eco-friendly products. That project's success is what led me to my current position, she explained. I was speechless. I never imagined my actions could have such a profound impact on someone's life. Overwhelmed with emotion, I quietly replied, Olivia, I never realized you thought of me this way. Thank you so much. Olivia gave me a gentle smile. Please, let me work for your company, I said with resolve. Olivia's face lit up with joy. Of course. You can start tomorrow. Yes, absolutely. We exchanged a firm, enthusiastic handshake. A month had passed since I joined Highridge Corporation. As the head of the new development division, I was leading the project to create the eco-friendly engine I had always dreamed of. Today was the budget meeting for the project. Feeling nervous, I entered the conference room, where Olivia greeted me with a warm smile. All right, Ryan. Let's hear your proposed budget for the project, she said. Taking a deep breath, I opened the materials I had prepared. The list included cutting-edge equipment and materials that I could only dream of back at KenDrive Engineering due to budget constraints. First, we need a high-performance simulation system, nanomaterial analysis equipment, next-generation 3D printers, precision thermal fluid analysis software, and an environmental testing chamber. With these, We can create more precise prototypes and conduct tests under conditions that closely replicate real-world usage, I explained. When I finished, I anxiously waited for Olivia's reaction. A list of demands like this would typically be rejected outright. But Olivia's expression remained calm. "That's it? Anything else you need?" she asked. "Huh? But..." I stammered. "Ryan," she said firmly, "we are investing in your potential. Whatever you need, we'll provide it. Don't hold back, just tell me." Her words brought tears to my eyes. At KenDrive Engineering, ideas that were once blocked by budget constraints kept flooding into my mind. Then, could we also request a high-speed camera for combustion analysis and an exhaust gas analysis system? With these, we could optimize both engine efficiency and environmental performance simultaneously. And, if possible, I'd like to ask for a dedicated test facility to thoroughly evaluate engine performance under various conditions. We'll need a spacious and well-equipped location. Olivia nodded firmly. Of course. Let me know if there's anything else you need. By the time the meeting ended, my head was full of excitement and anticipation. Back at the office, as I sat at my desk, I let out a deep sigh of relief and joy. With this, it's possible. My dream can come true here. I looked out the window. The environmentally friendly engine that was once laughed off as impossible. The path to realizing it was now unfolding before my eyes. Renewing my determination, I immediately began drafting the details of the development plan. 3 years passed. Development at Highridge Corporation was progressing smoothly, and I was fully immersed in the final adjustments for the next-generation engine in the development department. Then, suddenly, a thunderous voice echoed across the office floor. "Where is President, Mr. Highridge? Bring him out." The voice made my body tense up involuntarily. When I turned around, I saw two unexpected figures. It was Mr. Edwards, the president of our rival company, Echo Motors, and Kenneth. As the employees murmured among themselves, the doors to the development department opened, and Olivia appeared. "Apologies for keeping you waiting. I'm Olivia, the head of development at Highridge Corporation. I will be addressing you as a representative of Mr. Highridge." Olivia's voice was calm, but tension hung in the air. Mr. Edwards immediately raised his voice even further upon seeing Olivia. "Your company is a thief. You stole our technology. What are you referring to? All of our technology is developed in-house. Don't lie. How do you explain the striking similarity between our new engine under development and yours?" Mr. Edwards's face was twisted with anger, his voice shaking. He pulled out an envelope full of documents and slammed its contents onto the table in front of Olivia. "Look at this. These are the blueprints for our new engine. And here are the analysis results of your product. The structures are nearly identical." Olivia tried to maintain composure, but a flicker of unease crossed his face. Mr. Edwards, gaining momentum, continued. "We are in the process of applying for a patent for this technology. Your actions clearly constitute patent infringement." Kenneth stepped forward and added his voice. "Olivia, this is a serious matter that cannot be overlooked. Please provide an explanation." The office fell silent, with unease spreading across the faces of the employees. I stepped forward. "Excuse me. I'm Ryan, the head of the development department. May I take a look at the blueprints?" "Go ahead. Take a good look." With Mr. Edwards's permission, I picked up the blueprints. The moment I saw them, I felt the blood drain from my face. The blueprints before me were undeniably similar to our engine. No, more than that. They were almost identical. My mind went blank, and a cold sweat trickled down my back. This is, indeed, almost identical to our engine. I could hear my own voice trembling. The office erupted into murmurs at my words. I saw the color drain from Olivia's face as well. Mr. Edwards, looking triumphant, shouted, "See? Even your own engineer admits it. Should I leak this to the media? The Highridge Corporation technology theft scandal. What do you think will happen to your stock prices?" His angry voice reverberated through the room. The murmuring in the office didn't cease. Kenneth glared at me with his lips pressed into a thin line. Amidst the tension, Olivia's resolute voice rang out clearly. "Mr. Edwards, it's your company that will be facing a lawsuit." The office instantly fell silent as if doused with water, and Mr. Edwards was momentarily at a loss for words. Kenneth, too, stared at Olivia in surprise. Olivia continued, "This technology has already been patented by Ryan here, and the patent has been approved. Moreover, we have already completed its commercialization. Here is a copy of the patent application. Please check the filing date." She retrieved a set of documents from her desk drawer and spread them in front of Mr. Edwards and Kenneth. Both men stared at the papers in shock. Mr. Edwards's face turned pale, and his hands visibly trembled. He repeatedly examined the documents and then looked up, disbelief written all over his face. This can't be. No wonder our patent wasn't approved." His voice quivered. He suddenly turned toward Kenneth. His eyes were filled with anger. "Kenneth, what is the meaning of this? You told me this engine was developed by your company." Mr. Edwards shouted, his voice escalating. Kenneth, caught off guard, glanced between Mr. Edwards, Olivia, and me, his expression confused. "Well, that's..." Before Kenneth could finish, I stepped forward. All eyes in the room turned to me. I took a deep breath and spoke calmly but with conviction. That technology was indeed developed at KenDrive Engineering. To be precise, it was in its early stages of development. I worked on it during my time at KenDrive Engineering. "What? You?" Mr. Edwards raised an eyebrow. I nodded and continued. The basic concept was already established back then. However, there was a critical issue with durability. We couldn't overcome it because we lacked a decisive breakthrough. I gestured as I explained. To achieve a significant leap in engine efficiency, combustion at far higher temperatures than before was necessary. Theoretically, it was possible. But the materials to make it feasible didn't exist. Traditional materials degraded rapidly under such high temperatures. And we couldn't break through the durability barrier. What we needed was an entirely new nanostructured material, controlled at the atomic level. I noticed Olivia nodding slightly in agreement. Feeling encouraged, I continued with more energy. I asked Olivia to establish a nanomaterials research facility at Highridge Corporation. What we developed there was a super heat-resistant nanostructured material. By combining quantum dots and carbon nanotubes, we created a new composite material, applying it to the engine interior. This enabled stable combustion at ultra-high temperatures, something previously deemed impossible. With this groundbreaking material, engine durability improved dramatically, and harmful emissions were significantly reduced due to high-efficiency combustion. This is the secret behind the revolutionary performance of our engine. Kenneth and Mr. Edwards stood frozen, stunned by the explanation. Their faces showed how overwhelmed they were by the depth and complexity of the technology. Olivia added a final note. Without Ryan's unique theories, this technology would have been impossible to realize. His insight and creativity were the driving forces behind the creation of this revolutionary engine. The room was utterly silent as everyone stared at me. I could sense their mix of astonishment, respect, and confusion in their gazes. I turned back to face Kenneth and Mr. Edwards directly. We have also secured related patents for this technology. In other words, full use of this technology requires our permission. So, if there is any infringement, it would be on your side. The color drained further from the faces of Mr. Edwards and Kenneth. But suddenly, Mr. Edwards's expression twisted. With a face contorted in anger and humiliation, he turned sharply to Kenneth. "You, how dare you deceive me?" Wait, what do you mean?" Kenneth stammered, his face pale as he looked at Mr. Edwards. "I offered a hand to a struggling company like yours because I heard you had great technology. And this is how you betray me." "Kenneth, our contract is terminated. All agreements are off the table." Kenneth's face went pale. He frantically grabbed at Mr. Edwards's sleeve. "Please, wait, Mr. Edwards. You can't do that. If you pull something like this, my company will go bankrupt." Mr. Edwards sneered and shook off Kenneth's hand. "What do you mean, you can't do that? Who do you think bought your so-called technology for $100,000 and saved you? On top of that, I allowed your factory to produce our products and even bought them back at 80% of the production cost. Do you really think you're in any position to complain?" The room erupted into whispers. $100,000 for advanced automotive technology was an unthinkably low price. Moreover, in manufacturing, products are typically sold at a price that includes a profit margin on top of production costs. Buying at 80% of the production cost meant that Kenneth's company was operating at a loss with every product made. Kenneth slumped his shoulders, utterly speechless. I felt my body tremble with a mix of shock and anger. A former friend of mine, forced into such terrible conditions. I stepped forward. I glared at the man before me, my gaze filled with all the anger I could muster. "Mr. Edwards, do you even understand what you've just done?" My voice was low and sharp. Mr. Edwards frowned. "What's that? Just another employee daring to speak out? This company clearly doesn't know how to educate its people." He spat the words with an air of condescension, maintaining his arrogant demeanor. I took another step forward, putting weight into my voice. "This isn't about education. It's about morality." Mr. Edwards scoffed. "Morality? Don't make me laugh. Business has no room for sentimentality. Results are all that matter." My voice rose slightly. "Results? By stealing other companies' technologies and exploiting weaker businesses? Are those the results you're after?" "Shut up." Mr. Edwards raised his voice angrily. "What would you know? This is the norm in our industry." He sneered and spoke with mockery. "You've got a big mouth for someone so young. What do you know? Surviving in this industry isn't about pretty ideals. It's survival of the fittest. That's the real truth of this world. Technology? You can buy it or steal it. Sitting on top of someone else's hard work and making it your own, that's what true talent is. You kids with your dreams and ideals make me sick. Just hearing you talk about that nonsense makes me want to throw up. Money is everything. With money, you can buy the law, people, whatever you want. That's how I got to where I am today. You're on a completely different level than me. Understand? This is what the adult world looks like. Not that you'd ever comprehend." Mr. Edwards continued, his tone filled with excitement. "And your friend here? What about him?" He cast a contemptuous glance at Kenneth, who stood beside him, as he spoke. "Look at this pathetic guy. Do you know what he did? He got on his hands and knees, begging me, 'Please, help us. My employees will end up on the streets.' To think he had the nerve to pull such a shameless stunt in front of a top-tier company's president. But hey, guys like him are easy to handle. Obedient and cheap to use. He should be thanking me for saving his sorry excuse of a company instead of complaining." As his words ended, a suffocating tension filled the room. Kenneth's face turned bright red as he trembled with a mix of shame and anger. "You, how dare you talk about Kenneth like that? I clenched my fists tightly, my teeth grinding in fury. Mr. Edwards sneered again, clearly enjoying himself. Oh my, how scary. As expected from Highridge Corporation, lousy employee training all around. That's why second-rate companies are. I took another step forward, glaring daggers at him. Do you even realize what you've just admitted to? What? What are you talking about? You've just confessed to engaging in illegal activities. Mr. Edwards's face twisted in shock. What? Illegal activities? I began counting off, folding my fingers as I listed his wrongdoings. My voice cold and filled with anger. First, abuse of superior bargaining position. This is a violation of antitrust laws. Second, unfairly low purchase prices for technology. This could constitute fraud. Third, forcing production at below cost rates. This is a violation of subcontracting laws. And above all, your actions have pushed your business partner to the brink of bankruptcy. This could even fall under criminal obstruction of business. Mr. Edwards's face grew increasingly pale. You've just confessed to multiple crimes. This room is full of witnesses. There's no escape. But what's truly unforgivable is the way you insulted my friend. Prepare yourself. That's... Mr. Edwards tried to stammer a rebuttal, his voice trembling. Oh, and let's not forget something else. The technical materials you brought here, those were based on technology you unjustly acquired from Kenneth's company, weren't they? So, not only did you steal someone else's work, but you also attempted to sue us, the rightful developers of this technology. The blood drained from Mr. Edwards's face, but he still refused to give up. He suddenly raised his voice, desperately trying to resist. Nonsense. You have no proof. No one will believe your claims. He stood abruptly and bolted toward the door. But Olivia's calm voice cut through the tension. Mr. Edwards, everything has been recorded. In fact, rumors of your fraudulent dealings have long circulated within the industry. That's why we've always been cautious, ensuring to record important conversations. She pulled out her phone and held the screen toward Mr. Edwards. Furthermore, we've gathered testimonies from former Echo Motors employees. As you're well aware, the automotive industry is smaller than it seems. Over the past few months, multiple former employees of your company have come forward as whistleblowers, providing detailed testimonies and documentation of your illegal activities. Mr. Edwards stared at the screen, horrified. The display listed an overwhelming amount of evidence against him. He looked around the room in panic, his gaze landing on Kenneth, as if pleading for help. Kenneth, you understand, don't you? I did all this for you. To save your company. But Kenneth met his gaze with cold, unwavering eyes. Mr. Edwards made one last attempt at resistance. This is all a misunderstanding. If we talk it out, I'm sure we can resolve it. Yes, let's settle this out of court. I'll pay whatever it takes. I cut him off with a cold, firm voice. You think money can fix this? Your crimes are far too severe. Finally, all the color drained from Mr. Edwards's face. He collapsed to the floor, trembling uncontrollably. Fine, I surrender. I'll do anything, just please. Mr. Edwards spoke in a strained, barely audible voice. I looked at Olivia. She gave a small nod and stepped forward. Mr. Edwards, your actions are utterly unforgivable for someone working in the same industry. We've already contacted the authorities. So I suggest you quietly accept the consequences of your crimes. At that moment, security personnel entered the room and detained Mr. Edwards. He stumbled weakly as they escorted him away. A heavy silence filled the room. Kenneth slowly turned to face me. His shoulders sagged, and his eyes were filled with fatigue and regret. You must be laughing at me, Ryan. His voice was hollow. I said nothing, just stared at him. Lowering his gaze, Kenneth continued. After you left, things were really tough. The company's performance kept declining, no new technologies were developed, we hit rock bottom. That's when Echo Motors extended a hand to us. Sure, I'd heard bad things about them. But they came to us with sweet promises. We'll provide funding, let's work on a technical partnership. He let out a heavy sigh. We didn't have any other choice. To keep the company alive, we had to cling to their words. Looking back now, it was a stupid decision. But back then, it felt like our only option. Kenneth paused, taking a deep breath. His eyes reflected deep regret. Ryan, after you left, I finally realized how much I relied on you. It wasn't just about the technology. You were my anchor. No matter how tough the problem, as long as you were there, I felt like we could overcome it. Having someone to talk to, it's something I only realize the value of after I lose it. That's why I wanted so badly to complete your engine. Even though I knew it was impossible, it felt like the last thread connecting us. He let out a bitter laugh. I accepted Echo Motors' offer because I wanted the funds to finish your engine. Kenneth covered his face with his hands. What an idiot I've been. I thought I was protecting your dream, but in the end, I betrayed it. I'm so sorry. I just wanted to protect my employees too. His voice trembled. Remorse and regret were evident in every word he spoke. In the end, I was the one clinging to your dream. I'm sorry. I don't know how I can ever make this right. Tears glimmered faintly in his eyes. I paused for a moment, letting Kenneth's words sink in. Then, quietly but firmly, I replied. That's okay, Kenneth. Kenneth looked up, startled. I smiled and continued. Clinging to a dream isn't a bad thing. In fact, that's what has driven us forward all this time. I'm grateful that you never let go of that dream. I placed a hand on Kenneth's shoulder. It only felt like the dream had disappeared because we were apart. But look around, you and I are together again now. That means the dream is still alive. Let's chase it together from here on out. A spark of hope returned to Kenneth's eyes. At that moment, an idea came to me. Kenneth, how about this? Highridge Corporation and KenDrive Engineering could form a technical partnership. Your company's engineers could work on developing peripheral technologies for my new engine. That would give your company a unique strength. Plus, we can delegate part of Highridge Corporation's production line to your company. That way, your factory's equipment would be put to good use. And, of course, we'd ensure fair pricing. Olivia interjected from the side. That's an excellent idea. Expanding production capacity has been one of our challenges, so it would be a perfect solution. Besides, your company's technical team has a great reputation. It's a win-win for us. Kenneth looked stunned. But, is that really possible? It is. Your company's technical capabilities are the real deal, I can vouch for that. With fair recognition and opportunities, your team will shine. More importantly, this proposal also carries my gratitude. If it weren't for you sending me for training and investing in me, I wouldn't be where I am today. Tears welled up in Kenneth's eyes. I gave his shoulder a reassuring pat. Let's start running toward that dream again, Kenneth. Hearing those words, large tears began to fall from Kenneth's eyes. Kenneth covered his face with his hands and began to sob, his shoulders trembling. It wasn't the restrained tears of a grown man but the raw, uninhibited crying of someone releasing years of pent-up emotions. Like a child letting go. Olivia and I silently placed our hands on his back. I'm sorry for showing you such a pathetic side of me. But we understand. It's all over now. It's time to move forward. Kenneth, your passion and skills can help so many people. Let's create a new future together. At our words, Kenneth slowly raised his head. His tear-streaked face held a mix of embarrassment, gratitude, and determination. Thank you, truly, thank you. He exhaled deeply. The three of us exchanged looks and nodded quietly. 3 years passed. Standing in the executive conference room on the top floor of Highridge Corporation, I gazed out the window. Beyond the glass stood a newly constructed research facility. On its rooftop shone a sign that read, KenDrive Highridge Joint Research Center. Ryan, take a look at this. Olivia said behind me, holding out some documents with a bright smile. It was the latest performance report. As I looked at it, my eyes widened in surprise. This is incredible. Sales are up 150% from last year, and the profit margin has increased too. It's all thanks to the new engine you developed. Its environmental performance has been highly praised. And we're getting flooded with orders from major automakers. Olivia nodded happily as she spoke. At that moment, the conference room door opened and Kenneth walked in. Ah, Olivia's here too. Perfect timing, I have good news. The new lightweight material we've been developing at my company is finally ready for practical application. With it, your engine will perform even better, Kenneth. That's amazing. Excitement filled my voice as I praised Kenneth's confident announcement. Olivia beamed with a broad smile as well. Kenneth's expression then turned slightly serious. Looking out the window, he spoke softly. By the way, about Echo Motors. It seems that company has finally gone bankrupt. Yeah, ever since that day, the authorities have been investigating them. It wasn't just about stealing technology, they uncovered tax evasion, falsified contracts, and even the employment of industrial spies. One crime after another came to light. As I added to Kenneth's words, Olivia furrowed her brows. To think they were doing all that, it's truly despicable. Kenneth gave a wry smile. Yeah. Mr. Edwards's ruthless methods rotted the company to its core. Employees started whistleblowing one after another, there was no saving it. In the end, crime doesn't pay. Exactly. But with this chapter closed, it gives us momentum for our new ventures. Let's face the industry head-on, as honest leaders. Kenneth looked at us and gave a small smile. In response, Olivia and I nodded firmly at him. As the workday came to an end and the evening set in, the three of us headed to a small bar near the office. Walking into the cozy, old-fashioned interior, a nostalgic aroma filled the air. I glanced at Kenneth with a knowing look and said, "We used to come here a lot, didn't we?" "Yeah, it was our go-to spot back in the day," Kenneth said, smiling nostalgically. Olivia glanced around the restaurant with interest. "It has such a charming vibe. I can see how it holds your youthful memories." The three of us sat at a small table and ordered draft beers. Cheers! The clink of glasses resonated warmly. After taking the first sip, Kenneth began speaking with a nostalgic smile. "Do you remember, Ryan? We celebrated our first successful business deal here." "Yeah. We got carried away and drank until morning back then." Kenneth and I exchanged glances and laughed as we reminisced about the past. There were stories of failures and tales of success. Laughter filled the air, and sometimes the mood turned poignant. Olivia listened to our stories with a bright, engaged expression. As the drinks started to take effect, Kenneth, his face red from alcohol, turned to me. "By the way, Ryan, what's going on with you and Olivia?" "What? What do you mean?" My voice shot up in surprise. Kenneth grinned mischievously and pressed on. "I think you two make a great couple. Both single, perfectly in sync at work, what's stopping you?" "Hey, Kenneth." I tried to stop him in a flustered tone. But before I could say more, Olivia, her cheeks faintly flushed, spoke softly. "I've always admired you, Ryan. But it's not just that. your passion, kindness, and strength. When I'm with you, I feel like I can be stronger too. So, it's not that I wouldn't mind. It's more like." She took a deep breath, gathering her courage, and looked straight into my eyes. "I love you, Ryan." Her words made my heart leap wildly. As my mind went blank, the words spilled out of me. I've always thought of you as more than just a colleague too. But, can someone like me be good enough? I'm always chasing dreams. Getting so caught up in technology that I lose sight of everything else. Olivia smiled gently. "It's because of those qualities that I love you." Our eyes met, and time seemed to stand still. My heart raced, but it was a pleasant, exhilarating feeling. Suddenly, Kenneth's booming voice broke the moment. "All right. This calls for a celebration. A toast to the start of something new for you too." With a beaming smile, he raised his glass high. Olivia and I, though slightly embarrassed, clinked our glasses together. The sound of the three glasses meeting felt like it marked the beginning of a new chapter of happiness. My passion had moved the hearts of both Olivia and Kenneth, ultimately leading to the creation of groundbreaking technology. This wasn't just a commercial success. It was a technology that improved people's lives and cared for the environment. That, to me, is the true definition of success. But none of it could have been achieved alone. It was only through the support of my teammates that this dream became a reality. Cherishing those around you and leveraging each other's strengths is what truly matters. Holding on to passion and refusing to give up has the power to improve not only your own life but also the lives of those around you. So, no matter how much others laugh at you or how often you're told it's impossible, you must never give up on the path you believe in. I don't need an incompetent employee like you. You're fired effective tomorrow. The cold words of my boss, Bob, echoed through the meeting room. I had been working diligently in the security department, dedicating myself to the job. Staying up late to uncover vulnerabilities, giving up weekends to develop countermeasures, and protecting the company's crucial information with everything I had. Yet, everything crumbled because of one business deal. Bob's daughter, who lacked any expertise, had joined the negotiation. Her explanation jeopardized the deal, and I desperately stepped in to salvage it. Even the client said, "I trust Kevin," supporting my intervention. But the next day, she wept in front of her father, complaining about me. He forcefully interrupted my explanation, looking down on me. She said, playing the perfect victim. With that masterful performance, my 6 years of hard work came crashing down. After her show, she smirked coldly, her face full of triumph. I clenched my fists on the desk, trembling with frustration at the sheer unfairness. However, this dismissal would change my life in ways I couldn't imagine. Out of nowhere, I received an invitation from a beautiful lady from a business partner. "How about joining us? We'll pay you 5 times your current salary." The sudden offer left me speechless. Little did I know that her proposal would influence the fate of many people and companies. My name is Kevin, 28 years old. I work in the security department of Harris Industries, a mid-sized manufacturing company. This morning, as always, I was engrossed in maintaining the company's security systems. Another vulnerability here, I murmured to myself, staring at the computer screen. For me, protecting the company's security isn't just a job, it's something much more profound. Finding gaps and sealing them off. It's a tedious process, but it's critical for safeguarding the company's valuable information assets. In fact, I'm the only security expert in this company. The other members of the IT department excel at programming and system operations, but when it comes to security, they rely on me. Especially now, with cyber attacks becoming more advanced, there's no room for complacency. "Kevin, are you working this early again?" The voice belonged to Mark, a colleague in the IT department. He's one of the few who appreciates my dedication. "Yeah, I was working on addressing a vulnerability I found yesterday." "There was such a thing?" As expected of you, Kevin. You notice things we'd never catch. Can I watch you work? Of course. I admit I'm confident in my skills in the security field. But it's not because of any natural talent. It's my past experiences that have shaped my current abilities. My family runs a small bicycle shop on the outskirts of town, and I grew up helping out. Whenever a repair request came in, I'd start by thoroughly checking the bicycle to identify the issue. Then, I'd carefully fix the problem. I'll never forget the time a young girl brought in her broken bicycle. She used it daily to visit her hospitalized grandmother. When she told me she couldn't afford the parts or labor, I offered, "Let me use this as a chance to practice. I'll fix it for free this time." I worked late into the night repairing it, and the smile on her face when she picked it up is something I'll never forget. Thanks to that bicycle, she could continue visiting her grandmother every day. It was a small repair, but it felt like I had touched someone's life in a meaningful way. That experience became my pride. Although I couldn't afford college, I devoured IT books at the library. During the day, I worked at the bike shop, and at night, I taught myself programming. After years of living that way, I finally earned my certification and secured a job in an IT company. Looking back, my experience at the bike shop has proven invaluable in my security work. Identifying the weak points in a system and reinforcing them, it's a similar process to fixing bikes. But more than anything, the desire to help others, which I learned through bike repairs, drives my current work. Though I didn't have much money, those days at the bike shop taught me the joy of being useful to others. Now, that same principle is protecting corporate security and safeguarding valuable information for many people. It's all rooted in the same feeling: the desire to be of service. As I reflected on these memories, Mark interrupted my thoughts. "By the way, Kevin, did you hear? Bob's daughter is transferring to our department." "What? Bob's daughter, you mean Emily?" Emily, a member of the sales team, also happened to be the daughter of Bob, the head of sales. The rumor was that Bob doted on her endlessly, so why the sudden move to IT? My curiosity was soon answered in the form of reality. "Nice to meet you all." Emily greeted us during the morning meeting. She had a glamorous air about her but seemed somewhat disinterested as she spoke. "Kevin, I want you to train my daughter," Bob told me directly after the meeting. Even though we were in different departments, as a department head, Bob technically outranked everyone. "Understood," I replied. Though I agreed, I had a sinking feeling this would be a troublesome task. And sure enough, my instincts were correct. Emily had no motivation for the work. Even as I explained basic programming concepts, she would fiddle with her phone or sigh in boredom. "Emily, this is an important part. Could you pay closer attention?" I asked. Yeah, but isn't IT just back-end work?" I was thriving in sales, shining there. Sitting in front of a computer. "Doing this boring stuff, it's not for me," she replied. I couldn't help but sigh deeply. How could she not understand that security forms the foundation of the company? It was baffling to hear such dismissive remarks about IT in this day and age. After a week of this behavior, Bob gave me a new directive. "Next week, there's a business negotiation with Network Systems Corporation. This will be a chance for my daughter to use her sales skills. Go with her." I couldn't believe my ears. A negotiation? She hasn't accomplished anything in IT yet. How could she possibly contribute to a business negotiation without even completing her training? Bob, she hasn't even mastered the fundamentals yet." "What are you talking about?" "My daughter was a star in sales. Winning over clients requires sales skills. IT knowledge? You can cover that part. Besides, their representative is a young woman. Same age as my daughter, so they'll naturally hit it off. Leave the technical stuff to you and let her seal the deal with her charm." "Got it?" Bob's tone brooked no argument. It was as if he was saying that charm and charisma alone could override the need for expertise. Bob was known for being one of the top performers in sales, but his methods were infamous for their aggressiveness. He had a reputation for disregarding his subordinates' opinions and pushing through his own ideas without compromise. Anyone who dared to challenge him risked demotion or reassignment without hesitation. In fact, rumors of talented employees who opposed Bob's opinions suddenly being reassigned to remote sales offices weren't a one-time occurrence, they'd happened more than a few times. No one dared to defy Bob's orders. Especially when it came to his beloved only daughter, it was entirely out of the question. The day of the negotiation arrived. As we stepped into the lobby of Network Systems Corporation, Emily looked slightly nervous. It was understandable, being thrown into a negotiation without any foundational knowledge. I, too, was filled with unease. The night before, I stayed late, trying to teach Emily at least the basic knowledge necessary for the negotiation. I simplified the materials, explained them carefully, and even went through possible questions and answers with her. Although she seemed disinterested, I did my best to get her to remember at least the essentials. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that my efforts might not be enough in this situation. Thank you for waiting. I'm Sophia from the sales department. The person who appeared was a young woman exuding a composed and dignified aura. I had heard the rumors, and they were true. She was stunning. But the sharpness in her demeanor made it clear that she was not someone to be underestimated. I'm Emily, the representative for this project. And I'm Kevin, accompanying his support. Thank you. Let's get started. May I hear your proposal? Sophia's gaze landed squarely on Emily. Emily smiled confidently and opened her materials. We are proposing a fantastic system that can significantly improve your operational efficiency. Based on my extensive sales experience, I can assure you that many clients have been highly satisfied with this product. Her polished sales pitch flowed smoothly at first. However, as she noticed Sophia's piercing gaze, Emily's voice began to falter. Specifically, this system is, efficient at. I see. Could you provide concrete data? For instance, how does its processing speed compare to existing systems? Also, what kind of security measures does it employ? That's a major concern for us. Sophia's barrage of technical questions left Emily completely frozen. It was a stark reminder that sales talk alone wouldn't suffice in a situation like this. If this continued, not only would the deal fall apart, but it could also damage the company's reputation. Excuse me, I said, leaning over to flip through the materials. Allow me to provide some additional details regarding your questions. I was desperate. If this negotiation failed, as her mentor, I would also bear the responsibility. Regarding the security measures, we employ a 3-layer defense system. The first layer uses an AI-driven next-gen firewall to fend off unauthorized access. The second layer involves behavior-based detection to identify threats early. Finally, the third layer ensures the protection of critical data through encryption. Specifically, in response to the growing threat of ransomware, we offer 24/7 real-time monitoring and, as I continued, I noticed Sophia's stern expression begin to soften. I see. That's very specific and convincing, she said. Additionally, please look at this data. It shows implementation results and cost-saving benefits from companies of similar size. Understood. If Kevin will be handling the project, we're ready to move forward with the contract. Emily's eyes widened in shock. What? But I'm the representative. I'm sorry, but your explanation didn't provide enough grounds for us to make a decision on implementing your system. However, Kevin's detailed and clear responses directly addressed our challenges. Working with you makes us uneasy, so I hope you'll understand. After Sophia's decisive words, a heavy silence filled the meeting room. I noticed Emily's hands trembling slightly. She left her seat hurriedly without even saying a proper goodbye to Sophia. In the elevator and all the way out of the building, she remained silent. Her profile showed a mix of humiliation and anger. Was she upset that I had taken over the explanation or furious at her own incompetence? The autumn evening cast long shadows on the road ahead as we walked in tense silence. I felt awkward but was somewhat relieved that I had saved the negotiation. That relief didn't last long. The next day, I was summoned to the department head's office, and I couldn't believe what I saw. Emily was sitting in front of Bob's desk, crying. And Bob himself was standing beside her. "Kevin, what the hell have you done?" Bob shouted, his voice laced with anger. I was trying my best to explain, but Kevin forcibly interrupted and Emily began. Emily trembled, tears welling in her eyes as she made her accusations. But behind those teary eyes, there seemed to be a cold, calculating glint lurking. And he treated me like I was completely incompetent, looking down on me throughout the presentation. Her trembling voice felt overly dramatic, almost exaggerated. There was an unnatural quality to it, as if she had rehearsed this performance in advance. Even as she dabbed at her tears with a handkerchief, she occasionally glanced at her father to gauge his reaction. "What? What do you mean, what?" "You robbed a junior of her chance to grow." Bob's voice roared, filling the room. For a split second, I thought I saw a victorious smirk flash across Emily's face. Was this a misunderstanding? Did they think I had deliberately undermined her work? Realizing this, I quickly tried to explain. "No, that's not true." Emily's explanation was silence. Bob cut me off sharply, his voice brooking no argument. Beside him, Emily stood as if hiding behind her father, wearing the perfect expression of a victim. Her tear-filled eyes were clearly part of an act, but it was an act she had perfected to appear utterly convincing. Bob's voice continued to drown out my words, leaving no room for me to defend myself. "I entrusted you with the important task of mentoring my daughter, and you betrayed my trust like this." Bob snapped, his eyes narrowing. Beside him, Emily continued to sniffle theatrically. "I believed in Kevin, but for him to sabotage me like this. I don't think I can ever work again," she wailed, her voice trembling in just the right way. Bob's voice rose even further. "It's because of you that my daughter's dreams and hopes were crushed. I won't forgive you. This is a misunderstanding. Please verify the details with Sophia from their side." "Verify?" "My daughter already explained everything. You jumped in, undermined her work, and stole her chance." "That's not true. I've heard enough." Bob slammed his hand on the desk. "An employee with such a twisted character has no place here. You're fired, effective tomorrow." Those words left my mind blank. I stood there, stunned, unable to process the absurdity of the situation. I glanced at Emily once more, hoping for some indication that this wasn't real. But behind Bob's imposing figure, Emily crossed her arms, her lips curling into a satisfied smirk. The tears from just moments ago had vanished, her eyes now dry and sharp. She wore the cold, cruel smile of someone who had executed their plan perfectly. "Submit all handover materials by tomorrow." "That's all," Bob said, his icy tone sealing my fate. Back at my desk, I slumped into my chair, overwhelmed by disbelief. How did it come to this? Around me, my coworkers avoided making eye contact, their silence louder than words. On my computer screen, half-finished security documentation stared back at me. I had poured everything into this company, dedicating myself to the work. I had approached every task with integrity and seriousness. But all of that was now reduced to nothing. With a single word from Emily, my career was on the verge of ending. "Are you okay?" Mark's concerned voice broke the silence. "Yeah, somehow," I replied weakly. "Everyone knows Emily's lying." "But..." Mark trailed off, unable to finish his sentence. He hesitated, looking apologetic but unsure of what to say. Nobody would dare to openly accuse Emily of lying. That evening, as I was preparing the handover materials for my final task, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unfamiliar number. "We're ready to meet." At the cafe where we had arranged to meet, Sophia arrived with an air of confidence and grace. Her sharp suit only enhanced her commanding presence. "No, thank you for agreeing to meet on such short notice. I heard from Emily that you were fired." Her straightforward remark made me let out a wry chuckle. Yes, well, that's how things turned out. Afterward, I was told rather forcefully that Emily would be taking over as the lead on the project. It was strange, to say the least. If you don't mind, could you tell me what really happened? Frankly, I don't trust her version of the story enough to proceed with the deal. Realizing her concern was genuine, I told her everything. "I thought as much," Sophia said, crossing her arms thoughtfully. "Actually, Emily contacted me too. She claimed Kevin deceived me. The failures during that negotiation were all part of his scheme. He sabotaged me from the start to make me look incompetent and steal the spotlight." Unbelievable, I sighed. But I saw through it immediately. The detailed explanations you provided during the meeting weren't something that could be improvised without preparation. Sophia sipped her coffee, her movements precise and elegant. As I watched her quietly return the cup to its saucer, she spoke again. "I have a proposal for you." "A proposal?" "Yes. Work for us. I'll offer you 5 times your current salary." "What?" My voice came out louder than I intended, drawing stares from nearby customers. She chuckled softly. "Did I surprise you that much?" "Well, that's an incredible offer. For someone with your skills, it's more than fair." Her serious gaze left me momentarily speechless. "In fact, this isn't the first time we've met," she said with a slightly shy smile. 15 years ago, I used to visit Andrew Bicycle Shop almost daily. My grandmother was in the hospital, and I needed to see her. But when my bike broke, and we couldn't afford repairs, every other shop turned us away." "Wait, are you that Sophia?" "You remember," she said, her expression softening. "You told me. It's not right for no one to help you in times like this, and you worked late every night to fix my bike." "Don't worry about the money," you said. Her eyes glistened as she continued. "We were so poor back then. My father had just started a tiny workshop. But because of your kindness, I could visit my grandmother every day. She recovered, and my father's business slowly began to grow." "Wait, does that mean your father is?" "Yes. My father is the founder of Network Systems Corporation. He started it as a small workshop, and it grew into what it is today." I was speechless. The girl I had helped so long ago had become a beautiful representative of a major corporation. "You taught me back then that people need to support each other, no matter the circumstances. My father says the same thing. Our company succeeded because we valued the connections we built with people." Her expression turned serious as she continued. "Now, it's our turn to help you. Our company has been struggling with security issues recently, but after seeing your proposal during the negotiation, I'm convinced you can turn things around for us. It's time for us to put into practice what you taught us, helping those who've helped us." Her words warmed my heart. I could see myself thriving at this company, using my experience to the fullest. It offered an environment where I could commit to security work with integrity. And most importantly, there were people who understood and valued me. "All right," I said, my voice steady. "I accept. Please let me work with you." Sophia's face lit up with a radiant smile. "Thank you so much. Let's get started right away." Over the next few months, my work at the new company turned out to be far more fulfilling than I had ever imagined. "Kevin, your proposed new security system was unanimously approved by the board." "Incredible work. Sophia's excitement shone as she shared the news. Proposals that had been outright rejected at my previous company were now being implemented one after another. The attitude toward security here was worlds apart from what I had experienced before. Budgets were approved immediately for initiatives like deploying cutting-edge AI-driven security systems and forming a 24/7 monitoring team. At my old company, such ideas had been dismissed outright as too expensive. Here, the belief that protecting the vital information of employees and clients is an investment, not an expense, was deeply ingrained in the leadership. Thank you. With this, we'll be able to build an even safer system, I replied. Absolutely. Plus, we're starting to see more interest from major clients, Sophia added. Indeed, new business inquiries had been pouring in recently. A company that guarantees security is inherently more valuable to its clients. At this rate, we should be able to turn things around and finally escape the slump we've been in for years, Sophia said, her expression a mix of relief and pride as she spread out the data. The numbers were indeed trending upward. The company that had once been on the brink of layoffs was now on a clear path to recovery. With major companies severing ties due to security issues and employee morale plummeting, the dark days of the past seemed almost unreal compared to now. Sophia's eyes glistened with faint tears. I never imagined we could change this much. I'm just as surprised. But it's all thanks to you, Kevin. Her kind words made me a bit self-conscious. Her warm smile sent ripples of gratitude through my heart. By the way, take a look at this, she said, handing me a tablet. As I studied the graph on the screen, my brows furrowed. This is the performance trend of the company you used to work for, Sophia said. The line graph displayed on the screen showed a sharp decline over the past few months. The timing coincided exactly with the period after I had left the company. It seems their lack of proper management is to blame. Other companies are canceling contracts with them, including ours. She added, her voice tinged with concern. I learned that the deals I had secured had been reassigned to Emily, and as a result, most of those clients had severed ties. The gap you left behind might have been bigger than anyone anticipated, she remarked. I see. I muttered, feeling a mix of emotions. The circumstances surrounding my resignation had been far from fair. But now, here I was, working for a major corporation and earning several times my previous salary. The resentment I once felt had faded. If anything, I felt a tinge of sympathy for them. One afternoon, I found myself once again busy preparing for a new business negotiation. This quarter had been particularly hectic. Major corporations were showing increasing interest in our security systems, leaving little downtime. While I was confident in technical proposals, I was still getting used to the business meetings and networking events that had become more frequent. Having grown up in a modest bicycle shop, high-end hotel parties and dinners with executives still felt foreign to me. Every time I donned a suit, I couldn't shake the feeling that I didn't belong. Sophia, on the other hand, thrived in such environments as both the head of sales and the daughter of the company president. She navigated conversations with executives effortlessly, as if she had been born into this world. When discussions turned technical, she would seamlessly hand over to me. For that, let me introduce Kevin, our head of security. But when the conversation returned to social topics, I often felt like an outsider again. Tonight, we were attending another industry party at a prestigious hotel. Kevin, this wine has such a lovely aroma, Sophia said as she handed me a glass. I accepted it, acutely aware of the gazes around us. Oh, Sophia. A familiar voice made me turn, and there stood Ryan, the heir of a prominent mid-sized company. Despite his fame even appearing in the media, he was notoriously obsessed with Sophia, a fact widely known in the industry. You're as stunning as ever. Being alone at such an elegant party is a waste, don't you think? Ryan. I'm here with Kevin, one of our employees. Sophia replied, her tone cooling slightly. While Ryan addressed her with familiarity, Sophia maintained a distant, formal demeanor. Undeterred by her chilly reception, Ryan pressed on. "Oh, him?" Ryan said, eyeing me up and down as if appraising an item. "I've done a little research on you. You seem to know a thing or two about security, but aren't you just the son of a failing bike shop? Don't you think you're a bit out of place here?" The temperature of the party seemed to drop for a moment. Or rather, the atmosphere around Sophia turned icy in an instant. "Kevin is a valued member of our company," she said firmly. "Is that so? An employee, huh?" Ryan's sneer widened as he leaned in closer. "Do you even know why you're here? This is high society, a place for networking and showcasing one's worth. Having someone like you, a nobody, lurking around only drags her down. Don't you see that? Ryan, how could you say something so cruel?" Sophia exclaimed. "I'm saying it for your own good." "His mere presence is a liability for you," Ryan retorted. His words were outrageously rude, but they carried a grain of truth. I was just an ordinary employee, a far cry from someone with her standing. Ryan wasn't entirely wrong. "Excuse me," I said, bowing slightly and preparing to leave. "Wait," Sophia said, grabbing my sleeve. Her hand trembled slightly. "Kevin is someone very important to me," she began. But I hesitated to hear the rest. The wall of status and class between us. It was an undeniable reality. No matter how much I accomplished or how much trust one earned, I was, at the end of the day, just an employee. For someone like me to hope for anything in this glittering world. I gently released Sophia's hand and offered a faint, apologetic smile. "I'm just going to the restroom," I said, leaving the excuse hanging in the air as I slipped into the crowd. I felt her gaze piercing my back as I walked away. That evening, I was painfully reminded of the unbridgeable gap between us. For the next few days, a slight awkwardness lingered between Sophia and me. But soon, an unexpected event swept that discomfort aside entirely. One afternoon, we received a surprising visitor in the company's reception room. "I am so sorry." Emily stood there, bowing deeply. I couldn't hide my shock at the sight of her. The very person who had orchestrated my dismissal at my previous job was now standing before me. "Please, would you consider coming back to our company?" Emily's voice trembled. Her previous arrogance was nowhere to be seen. "Please. If this continues, the company will collapse." Emily's desperate plea left me momentarily speechless. Beside me, Sophia stood with her arms crossed, her expression icy. When I asked for more details, Emily began to speak haltingly. "Ever since you left, we've had one system issue after another. Customer complaints have surged, and one by one, our clients have terminated their contracts. Even my father, he's under immense pressure." The memory of the declining performance graph I'd seen recently flashed through my mind. My father's decision to fire Kevin has become a major issue within the board of directors. But it's all because of me. Tears welled up in Emily's eyes and began to fall. Her pitiful state unsettled me slightly, but I tried to remain objective. Sophia, however, responded with a cold, cutting remark. "That's quite a convenient story, isn't it?" "Huh?" Emily stammered. "Now that the company's on the brink of collapse, you suddenly want him back? Have you forgotten how you treated Kevin when you drove him out?" Sophia's voice carried a sharp edge of anger. "No. I haven't forgotten. It's all my fault." Emily denied it frantically, desperation evident in her voice. Gone was the arrogant woman I once knew. Her current demeanor didn't seem like an act. Had she truly changed? "Oh, how your tune has changed," Sophia said, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "I didn't understand what I was doing back then," Emily admitted, staring at her clenched hands as she spoke slowly. "I relied on my status as the department head's daughter and refused to take responsibility for my mistakes. When I failed at the negotiation because of my own negligence, I took it out on Kevin. I stole his credit and lied to cover myself. It was all because of my selfishness. Yes, it was entirely your fault, Sophia said, her voice even colder. Your selfish actions cost the company a valuable employee. And now you're here to apologize? Because the company's struggling? Yes. I'm a terrible person. I see that now. I finally understand how vital Kevin was, how much he contributed to the company, to everyone. Emily's voice trembled. And now you want him to come back? How convenient, Sophia said. Yes, it is selfish. But Emily raised her face. Her tear-filled eyes were resolute, filled with determination. I'll do anything I can. I have to fix what I've caused. Kevin can set his own terms for salary, conditions, anything he wants. I'll even transfer it to another department. I promise never to get in his way again. And you think that will make it right? Sophia challenged. No. I know it won't be enough. I'm prepared to accept any punishment. But please, I'm asking you to help our company, and my father. Emily bowed deeply once again. Silence filled the reception room. Through the window, the sun was beginning to set, painting the cityscape in warm hues. The distant bustle of the office district felt like a world away. Kevin, Sophia said. Her gaze fixed on me. What will you do? I exhaled deeply, contemplating her question. Indeed, my departure from the previous company had been unjust. But still. Emily, I said. Yes. She replied nervously. I need to ask you one thing. I said, meeting her eyes with a serious expression. Why did you act the way you did back then? Emily hesitated, struggling to find the words, then finally answered in a quiet voice. At that time, I wasn't thinking at all. I was completely overwhelmed. Emily's voice trembled as she spoke. I stayed silent, waiting for her to continue. I had my heart broken. She said quietly, her head bowed. I was engaged, we had everything planned. Sophia silently offered her a handkerchief. Emily took it, her hands trembling as she continued in a quivering voice. I majored in IT at university, even earned my security certification. But when I joined the company, they said, you're Bob's daughter. So of course you'll be in sales, and assigned me to a department completely unrelated to IT. She took a deep breath and continued. My sales numbers were good, but it wasn't what I truly wanted to do. But he was different. When he saw the security proposal I'd written, he said, this is really well thought out. Why are you doing sales? What a waste. Emily's eyes filled with tears as she recounted the memory. He would say things like, your smile is so beautiful. He didn't care about flashy clothes or expensive brands. When I wore something I'd picked because I liked it, he'd say, it's so you, it's adorable. We spent our weekends at IT expos or talking about the tech I loved. He was the first person who really saw me. So when he proposed, I truly believed we'd be together forever. Her voice broke, and tears spilled down her cheeks. But then, out of nowhere, he told me it was over. I couldn't focus on anything after that. My father saw how broken I was and said, if IT is what you want, maybe this is your chance. Wait. Are you seriously saying you treated Kevin that horribly just because of a breakup? Sophia's voice was a mix of disbelief and reproach. I truly believed in him, Emily said, her voice shaking. Everyone who ever approached me only cared about my status as Bob's daughter. They all pretended to like me, but it was fake. But he never dismissed my dreams. He listened, encouraged me, and for the first time, I felt like someone saw me as Emily. not just as someone's daughter. And yet, I did such terrible things to Kevin. I was in such a bad place back then, I couldn't think straight. Emily stared at her tightly clasped hands, her voice filled with remorse. After I was transferred to the IT department, seeing Kevin's dedication and integrity made my chest ache. I wanted so badly to do the same kind of work, but I couldn't admit my inadequacy. A single tear rolled down her cheek as she continued. And yet Kevin patiently taught me, despite me being such a useless junior. But instead of appreciating his kindness, I felt it only highlighted how pathetic I was. Emily exhaled deeply, her voice trembling. Even during the negotiation, when he stepped in to help, I exploited his kindness, deceived my father, and took credit for his work. I'm so sorry. I'm filled with regret for everything I did. She choked back sobs as she continued. I understand now, I was running away. From my own immaturity, from the pain of heartbreak, from everything. And the worst part, I was jealous of Kevin's competence. I was envious of his abilities, and that led me to act in the ugliest way possible. I truly am the worst person. Emily's quiet sobbing echoed softly through the room. Suddenly, one of the employees stepped into the conference room. Excuse me, Sophia, sorry to interrupt, but there's an unexpected visitor. There's no appointment, correct? Who is it? Sophia asked. It's Ryan from Clark Trading. What? The memory of the industry party from a few days ago flashed through my mind. It was the same person who had mocked me relentlessly. Sophia, too, seemed irritated, but as a professional, she couldn't outright dismiss him. Fine. Show him to the reception room. That won't be necessary. Ryan appeared from behind the employee, stepping into the room uninvited. Sophia's expression soured as she addressed him. Ryan, it's inappropriate to enter our office without permission. Didn't the receptionist ask you to wait? Also, we don't entertain unannounced business meetings. I'm sorry about that. I know it's an imposition, but I didn't want to trouble you further by making a big fuss. Oh. Ryan's gaze fell on Emily. Well, if it isn't Emily. Ryan's tone grew even more mocking. Emily's body trembled visibly. What are you doing here? He sneered. Ryan. Emily's voice quivered. In that moment, I understood everything. Ryan was the ex-fiancé who had betrayed her. Business negotiations? No way. Someone as useless as you could never be working with this company, he said with a nasty laugh. Emily had caused me trouble in the past, but his cruel words were infuriating enough to make me momentarily forget my own grievances with her. It's been a while, hasn't it? You were so gullible back then. Whatever I asked, you answered without hesitation. Thanks to you. I got plenty of valuable information, Ryan continued, his voice laced with malice. What do you mean by that? I couldn't help but raise my voice. Exactly what it sounds like. Ryan replied, unbothered. This one here, Bob's daughter, was completely oblivious. She'd come to me under the guise of consultation and spill everything. As long as I pretended to listen sympathetically, she'd just keep talking. Oh, how does this work? I'd ask, and she'd eagerly explain. She handed over critical company information without a second thought. Honestly, she was a goldmine. He smirked maliciously, casting a contemptuous glance at Emily. Not quite on par with Sophia here, the president's daughter, but she was excellent as an informant, at least. Sophia stood up suddenly, her eyes blazing with anger. Ryan, what is your purpose here today? Oh, right. Ryan waved his hand nonchalantly and seated himself uninvited. Sophia, let's do business together. I can offer you the best terms. We're not interested. Sophia's response was immediate and unwavering. Clark Trading will not be a business partner of ours. Is that so? Ryan smirked even wider, clearly enjoying himself. You might want to rethink that stance while you still can. Semiconductor prices have been skyrocketing lately, haven't they? That must be driving up the development costs of your security systems. Sophia's expression tightened slightly. My research shows, Ryan said, lowering his voice, that your new AI security system development is stuck due to budget issues. If this continues, your contracts with major clients could be in jeopardy. Sophia stayed silent. But don't worry, Ryan continued, a smug smile creeping across his face. Our semiconductors can be offered at a special price. We also provide the latest security chips at less than half the cost of our competitors. These terms are unmatched. If you don't act quickly, you might lose those major automaker deals as well. Ryan stood up and walked toward Sophia. There was a predatory air about him, like a snake stalking its prey. And, he said, lowering his voice, if you join me for dinner tonight, I could offer even better conditions. Slap. Sophia's hand struck his cheek with a sharp crack. The sound echoed through the conference room. Leave. Now, she said, her voice like ice. No need to be so harsh. Ryan replied, holding his cheek, a mocking smile still on his face. Just think about it. You're running out of time. Ryan shrugged his shoulders and headed toward the door. However, just before leaving, he turned back. Emily, he said. Emily flinched, her body shrinking slightly. You poor thing, still clinging to a job at a first-rate company? I'll never forget the look on your face when I ended things. Why? Did I do something wrong? You were pathetic. You didn't even realize you were nothing more than a stepping stone, a tool for me to get the information I wanted. Less than a tool, really. With a cruel grin, he threw his final insult. I said, leave. Didn't you hear me? Shall I call security? Sophia's voice was low and firm. All right. Ryan said, raising his hands in mock surrender, his smirk never leaving. Partnering with us would bring significant benefits to your company, Sophia. Think about it, Ryan said before leaving. The door closed behind him. But the toxic atmosphere he left behind hung heavily in the conference room. Pathetic, I muttered. No one disagreed. Outside the window, the sun was setting, casting a reddish glow across the room. In that light, Emily trembled, and Sophia clenched her fists tightly. Ryan! The malice he left behind still lingered in the room, hanging heavy in the air. I can't believe with someone like that. Emily's voice trembled as she spoke. She covered her face with both hands, her shoulders shaking uncontrollably. I can't believe I trusted someone so vile. I was such a fool. Emily, I said softly. You were deceived. No. Sophia interjected sharply. As harsh as this sounds, you should hold resentment toward both Ryan, for exploiting your purity, and yourself, for taking out your anger on others in response. A heavy silence settled over the room. By the window, Emily's tears glistened in the fading sunlight. But this is also a chance to put an end to it all, Sophia said. Ha? Emily looked up, her voice uncertain. You can clean up everything, Ryan, and all the mistakes of the past. For that, Sophia turned to me. Kevin, the situation has changed. Maybe we should consider helping Emily. Yes, I was thinking the same, I replied. Taking a deep breath, I met Emily's gaze with a steady, sincere expression. I won't return to your company, but I'll help pull it out of its current crisis. However, I have conditions. Conditions? Emily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Yes. If you can meet them, I said. Sophia nodded in agreement. We might also consider renewing our contract with your company. Emily's eyes widened in disbelief. Really? You mean it? However, I continued, maintaining a serious tone. There are 3 conditions. Emily straightened her posture, a faint glimmer of hope in her tear-streaked eyes. First condition, you must disclose everything that happened between you and Ryan, without hiding anything. Okay, Emily replied. Second, you need to clearly identify the current issues in the IT department and explain the events that led to them. Emily nodded immediately. I'll explain that too. And finally, I paused, letting the tension settle in the room. The last condition. The atmosphere in the conference room grew heavier. Emily clenched her fists tightly. Stop running away. Wah, she murmured. The problems with Ryan, the failures in the IT department, they all happened because you were avoiding reality. I explained calmly. That's why, from now on, you need to face yourself and your responsibilities head-on. Tears welled up in Emily's eyes again, but they didn't seem like tears of regret. They felt like something else entirely. I understand, she said, her voice strong and clear. I accept all of your conditions. I won't run away anymore. Good, Sophia said with a smile. Now, let's discuss how we'll proceed. I nodded silently. The 3 of us stood in the fading sunlight, our shadows stretching long against the conference room wall. It felt like the prologue to a new challenge we were about to face together. A few weeks later, in the conference room of Network Systems Corporation, an unexpected disturbance occurred. Sophia! The door burst open abruptly, and Ryan stormed in with a furious expression. In his hand was a crumpled piece of newspaper. What is the meaning of this? He shouted, slamming the paper onto the table. The headline read, Harrison Industries and Network Systems Corporation announce business alliance. Excuse me, Sophia replied coolly. How did you get in here? Did you schedule an appointment? That's irrelevant. Ryan's voice echoed through the room. Why Harrison Industries? Clark Trading could have offered far better terms. I stood up quietly. Ryan, let's start by sitting down and discussing this calmly. Kevin. Ryan gritted his teeth but reluctantly sat down. Once he was seated, Sophia spoke, her tone measured. It's simple. Harrison Industries presented the most compelling proposal. That's all there is to it. You've got to be kidding me. Ryan slammed his hand on the table as he stood. We offered the lowest price possible. There's no way they could undercut us. Are you sure about that? I said, opening a file on the table. I looked into Clark Trading's supply chain and partners. What? Ryan narrowed his eyes. First, your Taiwanese supplier. For recalls in the last 3 years. Their quality control systems are severely inadequate. Ryan's expression stiffened. Then there's your manufacturing partner in China. They've faced repeated violations and received warnings from local authorities. That's... Ryan's voice faltered. And your Indonesian factory? 3 serious labor accidents last year alone. The American FDA also flagged major issues during their inspections. Ryan's face turned pale as I continued, unshaken. Furthermore, Ryan, your personal conduct has raised significant concerns. What do you mean by that? He demanded. In the past 2 years, 7 partner companies have reported mistreatment of employees. 3 cases of illicit information gathering. And I looked directly into his eyes. Using false engagements to extract company secrets like you did with Emily. That's corporate crime. Ryan's fists trembled violently. Kevin, what are you? And then there's the inappropriate advances toward female employees at client companies. When rejected, you've threatened to withhold contract renewals. Or you've coerced entertainment services in exchange for cost reductions. Stop it. Not to mention your habit of taking female employees on overseas trips under the guise of business and keeping them out late under dubious pretenses. Shut up! Ryan's shout echoed through the conference room. But his voice no longer carried the arrogance it once had. It sounded more like the desperate cry of someone cornered. Sophia stood up slowly, her movements deliberate and composed. Ryan, these are the reasons why we refuse to do business with Clark Trading. Damn it! He muttered, his voice barely audible. Yes, your costs were low, Sophia continued. But behind those low costs were all these glaring issues. I added firmly. Quality control failures. Compliance violations. And most importantly, unethical behavior. If these problems were to come to light, imagine the damage it would do not just financially, but to your reputation. Sophia delivered the final blow. Your low prices are not truly cheap when you consider the risks they bring, Sophia said calmly. A heavy silence settled over the conference room. Ryan's face had turned completely pale. Yet, like a cornered animal, he made a desperate attempt to resist. What is this nonsense? You have no proof. I'll sue you for defamation for everything you've said. Though he raised his voice, it trembled with fear. The terror of having his misdeeds exposed piece by piece was palpable. But these were the consequences of his own actions. If you want proof, I have it here, Emily said, pulling out a notebook. A notebook. I kept detailed records of every time we met. What did you say? Emily opened her notebook. Her trembling fingers flipped through the pages. February 15th, dinner with Ryan. He asked about White Day plans and inquired about the company's financial status. Emily's calm, deliberate voice continued as she read her meticulous records. Apparently, she had a habit of keeping a journal. At the very least, there was now documented evidence of their interactions. February 15th, met Ryan at a night cafe. He said, "Tell me all about your work problems," and I ended up sharing concerns about my clients. Emily slowly flipped another page. March 2nd, during dinner, Ryan gently asked, "Is the coordination with the IT department going well?" I showed him a system diagram I was concerned about. "Stop," Ryan interjected, his voice tense. March 10th, Ryan said, "Please tell me more." I value your opinions. Because I trusted him, I shared all the project materials. Enough. Ryan's voice now carried unmistakable panic. One by one, Emily revealed the evidence of how Ryan had extracted sensitive information through kind words and false trust. But Emily didn't stop. "And then, there's this," she said, pulling out her phone. "It's a recording." From the phone, Ryan's voice played clearly. "Emily, I trust you. That's why I need you to tell me more about the details of the new system. But that's confidential information." Emily's hesitant voice replied, "It's okay. We're about to get married, aren't we? I'd never betray you." Faced with such damning evidence, Ryan slumped in his chair, utterly defeated. He sat in stunned silence, realizing he could no longer escape the truth. "I really loved you," Emily said, her voice trembling with emotion. A heavy silence blanketed the room as her words hung in the air. "Just because I'm Bob's daughter, everyone called me a useless nepotism hire behind my back," Emily said, her voice trembling. "They'd say things like, she only does well because of her father, or she acts like she knows about IT. But she's just pretending because she's Bob's daughter." I heard those kinds of things every single day. Her voice wavered as she continued. "Even when I achieved good sales numbers, people said, it's just because clients are being considerate of her father. When I proposed ideas, it was, she doesn't have any real ability. They're just humoring her because she's Bob's daughter." Tears welled up in her eyes. "But Ryan, you were different. Or at least, I thought so." "Emily, You understood me. You acknowledged me. You listened to me," she said, wiping away her tears. "And it was all an act. And even now, you're doing the same thing to other women, aren't you?" Ryan was no longer the arrogant man he had been moments ago. You guys don't understand anything," he finally muttered, his voice low and growling. "With your money, connections, and opportunities, you can't possibly understand how I feel. The company is on the verge of collapse. Clients are canceling contracts one after another. Stock prices are plummeting. Bankruptcy is looming. And in the midst of it all, I'm being touted as the next president, burdened with all the responsibility. That doesn't mean," Sophia said firmly, her tone sharp, "that you have the right to toy with people's hearts." Ryan snorted, a bitter laugh escaping him. "Have you ever seen it, Sophia? The anxious faces of employees? Or the weary back of a once proud president who also happens to be your father? Does that justify using any means necessary to escape?" Sophia pressed. "I'm not escaping," Ryan shot back. "I'm protecting the company. Protecting the employees. Protecting my father's dream. And is the company truly saved right now?" I asked quietly. Ryan's eyes widened slightly, startled by the question. "If you want to protect what matters most, don't you have to choose the right way to do it? By deceiving others? Haven't you lost sight of your true purpose? What would you know? You, who don't have a family legacy or a company to shoulder." Ryan snapped, his voice faltering. I moved to sit beside him. "I don't know," I admitted softly. "I can't imagine the pressure you must feel. But that's why you should talk. Share your burden with someone. Don't suffer alone, ask for help." "Help," he echoed, almost in disbelief. "Just because you're the president's son or the next in line, it doesn't mean you have to protect the company all by yourself. That's what your employees are there for, to support each other. That kind of weakness, it's not allowed," Ryan said, shaking his head. I exhaled slowly. "Ryan, you're truly earnest. That's an admirable trait. But your earnestness is driving you into a corner. Protecting a company ultimately means protecting the connections between people, doesn't it?" Ryan stared at me silently. "You don't have to carry everything alone just because you're the president's son. A president can't exist without employees. And employees can't exist without a president. It's only by supporting each other that a company can become strong. At least, that's what I've learned from my experiences." I held his gaze firmly, my tone sincere. "Have you ever shared your real struggles with anyone? Your employees are probably waiting to hear your true thoughts." Ryan lowered his head and remained silent for a long time. His shoulders trembled slightly. "The truth is, I just..." His voice broke as he struggled to speak. The expression Ryan had tried so hard to maintain began to crumble. I felt like I was being crushed by the pressure, but I couldn't talk to anyone about it. Ryan covered his face with both hands. Through the gaps between his fingers, tears began to fall. Even so, to stoop to such cowardly actions. He murmured, lifting his face slowly. His eyes, filled with deep regret, reflected a man stripped of the arrogance he had once worn like a mask. Without hesitation, he stepped forward, bowed deeply, and said, "Emily, I'm sorry. Ryan, I took advantage of your sincerity and betrayed your trust," Ryan said, his voice trembling. "Everything I did was supposed to be for the sake of saving the company. But deep down, I always knew it was wrong." His voice quivered with emotion as he continued. "At first, I approached you on a whim. I thought it would be amusing to get information from the department head's daughter, such a low, despicable motive." Ryan struggled with his words, his guilt palpable. "But you weren't like I expected. Even though you were the department head's daughter, you didn't put on airs. You shared your struggles so honestly. And when you talked about your dreams, your passion, your hard work, your eyes lit up, and I couldn't help but be drawn in. For a moment, he faltered. I know it's too late to say this, and you probably won't believe me, but I got scared. I realized I'd gone too far. That there was no way to undo what I'd done. This time, there was no trace of deceit in his voice. I'm the worst. I destroyed everything precious to me, thinking I was saving something. I ruined what mattered most. And now, there's no going back. No, I said firmly, breaking the silence. There's still a chance to start over. What? Reveal all the misconduct and take responsibility. That's the first step toward rebuilding yourself. Ryan looked at me, then turned his gaze to Emily. Emily, he said. Yes. She replied softly. I will start over properly. I don't know if that can atone for what I did to you, but I'll try. Emily gave a small nod. There was no trace of hatred left in her eyes. Kevin. Ryan reached out toward my file. I'll submit all the evidence documents, he said. Hearing this, Sophia smiled gently. I respect your decision. Ryan bowed deeply, then quietly left the conference room. The three of us left behind sat in shared silence for a while. It's over, isn't it? Emily murmured. No. Sophia replied. It's just beginning, Sophia said. I nodded silently. Outside the window, the sunset cast a quiet but steady light of hope for a new tomorrow. 6 months passed. Since I joined Network Systems Corporation, the partnership with Harris Industries had been running smoothly, with both companies seeing steady upward growth in their performance. Our company, in particular, had re-evaluated past business relationships and pushed for new ventures, resulting in record-breaking profits. Kevin, do you have a moment? As I was organizing some documents in the office, Emily called me. The arrogance she once had was long gone. Now, she was known for her sincere work ethic, which was highly regarded within her company. She had become a reliable business partner. Sure, what's up? I got a letter from Ryan, she said, her voice tinged with sadness. She shared the contents with me. Ryan's company had gone bankrupt after his fraudulent dealings came to light. He himself had been arrested and, after receiving a suspended sentence, was now living in a rehabilitation facility. I read the letter, and it seems like he's truly remorseful, Emily said. If he pays for his crimes and comes back, I hope we can have a normal friendship this time. That would be good, I replied. I did love him, she continued. But now I realize I was projecting my ideals onto him and never saw the real Ryan. From now on, I want to truly see the person I'm with. Otherwise, I'll just repeat the same mistakes. Her words resonated deeply, and I nodded in agreement. Everyone makes mistakes, but it's how we learn and grow from them that defines us. Emily had grown stronger. And one more thing, she added. My father would like to meet with you. Your father? Bob? All right. That evening, I headed to a private local pub at the appointed time. Bob was already waiting for me, sitting at the table with an untouched pint of beer. His expression was darker than I'd ever seen before. Please, sit, he said. As soon as I sat down, Bob bowed deeply. I'm truly sorry, Bob. But he looked at me straight in the eye. There was a fierce regret in his gaze, something I had never seen before. I heard from my daughter about what happened with Ryan, he said. Thank you for helping her. And yet, I made a one-sided judgment without even listening to your side. That was a grave mistake. Without touching his beer, Bob continued. Emily's mother passed away 10 years ago. I was desperate to protect my only daughter. But that's no excuse. His voice trembled as he spoke. In trying to protect her, I hurt a valuable employee and caused significant damage to the company. My selfish decisions were the root of it all. Bob, that's... No, please, let me finish. When Ryan's actions came to light, I was severely reprimanded by the board of directors. It was a deserved punishment. But what hurt more was... Bob hesitated for a moment, struggling with his words. After you left, I began to feel the shift in the company's atmosphere. Morale in the security department dropped significantly, and coordination with other departments broke down. Most of all, losing you made me realize just how valuable of an asset we had lost. Actually, Bob pulled a piece of paper out of his pocket. This is my transfer order. Starting next month, I'll be stationed at a regional sales office. What? This is something I requested, Bob clarified. I no longer have the qualifications to lead at headquarters. I need to start over from the beginning. Especially after seeing your accomplishments and the grace with which you've moved forward, I can't afford to stay complacent. I made a terrible mistake in how I treated you. Apologies alone can't atone for it, but... Bob bowed again. This time so deeply that his forehead nearly touched the table. The responsibility for losing someone as talented as you is mine alone. Everything, Emily, the company's troubles, it all stems from my shortcomings. I am truly sorry. Bob's voice trembled as he spoke. Even his back shook slightly with emotion. Bob, please, lift your head. I said quietly. Yes, it was painful at the time, I admitted. But you made those decisions out of love for your daughter. And besides, if it hadn't happened, I wouldn't have met Sophia, and I wouldn't have discovered new opportunities. So please, don't worry about it anymore. Kevin. Tears welled up in Bob's eyes. You truly are an admirable man. That night, Bob apologized repeatedly. He spoke candidly about Emily, the company, and his own past mistakes. It was a vulnerable side of him I had never seen before. I have to change from now on, Bob said firmly as we parted ways. He reached out for a strong handshake, his grip conveying a newfound resolve. Later, Emily told me that Bob had fully committed himself to his new role at the regional office. He was out in the field every day, working closely with his team and facing the challenges head-on. Everyone makes mistakes, but the strength to face those mistakes and seek to make amends, that is true courage. I shared my conversation with Bob with Sophia. As always, she listened attentively, smiling warmly at the news of our reconciliation. She was genuinely happy for us and suggested celebrating our recently finalized business contract with drinks together. The evening flew by, the joy of her company making it hard to say goodbye. I could feel the growing closeness between us. In both work and life, Sophia's presence had become increasingly significant. Recently, she'd been acting a little differently. I bought too much, she'd say, handing me a sandwich from the convenience store to share, or, I feel uneasy without you, she'd admit. Asking me to accompany her to meetings where my presence wasn't really necessary. On the way home, she suddenly stopped in her tracks. Ugh, really, she exclaimed. What's wrong? Kevin, do you really not get it? What? She showed a slightly pouty expression. Ugh. I'm making it so obvious. Well. I mean. I stammered, flustered. She gave me a teasing smile. Is it because you think a small-town bike shop kid doesn't match up with someone like me? I froze, caught off guard by how accurately she read me. She chuckled softly. I don't care about that at all. In fact, she said, her expression turning serious as she looked straight into my eyes. It's your sincerity and kindness that drew me to you. The night breeze swept between us. Sophia. I murmured, her name escaping my lips before I realized it. Her eyes sparkled. Finally, you're calling me casually, she said. Oh, I'm sorry. That was rude of me. No, it's not that. She interrupted gently, her voice softening. I'm happy. Kevin. In that moment, she leapt toward me, wrapping her arms around me. Under the moonlight, our shadows merged into one. It was then that I truly understood. A person isn't defined by their background or circumstances. What matters is how they live, what they believe in, and who they choose to love. That's what shapes someone's essence. The idea of a difference in status? It's just an illusion. We had become invaluable partners who recognized and uplifted each other. From now on, let's keep moving forward together, Sophia. Yes, Kevin, she replied. There was something special in her words. As if our hearts had suddenly grown even closer. Under the starry sky, we took our first step into a new chapter of life. A small-town bike shop owner's son and a corporate heiress, an unlikely pair at first glance. But that became our pride. Status and rank didn't matter. What mattered was the compassion we shared and the determination to build a better future together. Every time we called each other's names, it reaffirmed our bond. That this connection wasn't a coincidence. And that the path we were walking together was the right one. My name is James Carter, and I'm 42 years old. My wife, Emily, is also 42, and we've been happily married for 20 years. Emily and I met in college, we were classmates. Although we were in the same class, we hadn't spoken until we got to know each other in a cooking club. I live alone, so I figured I should at least learn how to cook. While eating out was an option, I was a broke college student trying to save money, so I decided to learn how to cook. I was a complete beginner and barely knew how to hold a knife. Looking back now, my grip was terrifyingly wrong. Emily, who saw me back then, must have been just as horrified. But instead of giving up on me, she patiently taught me the basics of cooking. James, about how to use the knife. Try holding it more like this. Don't press too hard. Oh, yes, that's perfect. Her voice was so gentle and soothing, I still remember it clearly. At first, I was clumsy beyond belief. I remember shredding cabbage so thickly that it couldn't even be called a shred, and I felt so discouraged. But Emily always cheered me up with a smile. James, it's okay. Everyone struggles at first. Let's keep at it together. The fact that you wanted to try this and join the cooking club is amazing. Thank you, Emily. If it weren't for your encouragement, I probably would have given up already. Really? I'm glad to hear that. You're always trying so hard, James. It makes me want to cheer you on. Being encouraged like that, I gradually started to increase the variety of dishes I could cook. As a result, I began to find real enjoyment in cooking. It became genuinely fun. Driven by curiosity and enthusiasm, I started trying out more and more recipes. Wow! You've nailed stewed dishes now. This is delicious. When I served Emily my first perfectly cooked stew, her sparkling eyes and excitement brought me so much joy. Her delighted smiles and constant "this is so good" made me realize I had fallen in love with her. Emily. Would you be my girlfriend? What? Really? If you're okay with me. Yes. Please. Hearing Emily say yes was one of the happiest moments of my life. Time with her felt like pure bliss. We went on many dates and decided to get married at 22. Although we had both secured jobs, we were just out of college and didn't have much money. Still, I wanted Emily to wear a wedding dress, so we held a small but heartfelt ceremony. It's been 20 years since then. Every day we spend together is the greatest happiness. Hi, honey. I'm home. What are you cooking? It smells amazing. Welcome back. It's beef stew, your favorite. I figured you'd be tired after work, so I wanted to make something to lift your spirits. I smiled at Emily as she walked in, stirring the stew simmering on the stove. Emily smiled warmly at me as she saw me like that. Wow, I can't wait. Thank you, honey. I really appreciate everything you do. Once the busy season at work ends, I'll start cooking more, okay? She looked a little guilty as she said that. I reassured her with a smile. Thank you too. We both work hard, so we help each other out. Emily, you're important to me, and it makes me happy to cook for someone I love. And you know, I think I've gotten pretty good at cooking, thanks to the best teacher I could have asked for. Emily looked slightly embarrassed by my words. Having her in my life has brought me so much richness and joy. Her kindness and the time we share together are the most precious things to me. Thank you for everything. You're always so thoughtful. We don't have children. But perhaps because of that, we've been able to spend more time cherishing and supporting one another. These peaceful days we share are the greatest happiness of my life. One day, Emily handed me an envelope labeled invitation. Honey, there's a company event coming up, a family gathering. Would you come with me, if you're okay with it? Seeing the slight blush on her cheeks, I immediately smiled and replied, Can I really come? Of course. I'll make it work no matter what. She looked relieved as she smiled softly. Actually, it's not just about me. They're putting together a commemorative video for employees who've been with the company for 20 years. There's even footage of us from our younger days. Honestly, being filmed felt a little embarrassing, but I'd love for you to see it. I was struck with surprise and found myself once again appreciating all the hard work Emily had put in. Emily works as an interior designer for Mitchell House, a construction company. Staying at the same company and working so hard for 20 years, it's an incredible accomplishment. I can't wait to see it. It'll be amazing to watch all your efforts over the years. Congratulations on 20 years, Emily. You've done something remarkable. I'm so proud of you. Thank you, honey. It means a lot to hear you say that. I've always been able to keep going because of your support. I pulled her close, gently patting her back. Having been by her side all these years, I've seen the effort and challenges she's faced, and I deeply respect her perseverance. But then, I noticed a flicker of worry cross her face. What's wrong? Is something bothering you? Is it about the gathering? After hesitating briefly, she nodded slightly. There's something, or rather someone, that's been on my mind. My manager, Rachel, she's made things a little difficult for me. Rachel? Why is that? Emily sighed before explaining. She's very prideful and convinced that she's always right. She tends to get emotional and lash out at her team when things don't go perfectly. I could see her brows furrow as she recalled the details. Once, one of my younger colleagues, Amy, was working under Rachel's direction. But Rachel's instructions were so vague that everyone around us noticed how unclear they were. Even our supervisor, Mark, suggested Rachel give more specific guidance. However, it seems that Rachel did not actually listen to that advice. In the end, her subordinate, Amy, couldn't manage to succeed and ended up failing. Honestly, even I could tell that the fault lay with Rachel's poor instructions. So Rachel called Amy in and started scolding her, completely driven by emotion. The memory seemed unpleasant for Emily, as her expression tightened. I was there and couldn't just stand by while Amy was being unfairly criticized. I've worked with Amy before, she's diligent and eager to learn. It was obvious to me that Rachel's vague instructions caused the issue. You spoke up, didn't you? Emily nodded and shared what happened. Amy, why couldn't you follow such simple instructions? If you can't even manage this, you won't make it here or anywhere. Rachel, her face flushed red, nervously pounded on the documents with a loud thud. Overwhelmed by the scene, Amy silently lowered her gaze. Seeing Amy, slightly trembling, Emily couldn't hold back any longer and intervened. Rachel, I don't think that's entirely fair. Didn't this happen because your instructions were unclear? Rachel turned to glare at Emily, stunned. What are you saying? It's the employee's responsibility to understand and execute instructions properly. If Amy failed, it's clearly her fault. How can you even suggest otherwise? Undeterred by her intimidating attitude, Emily continued speaking, while shielding Amy behind Emily. With all due respect, this time, your directions were far too vague. Criticizing someone for failing when the guidance was unclear isn't fair. And if I remember correctly, Mark even advised you to provide more specific instructions, didn't he? Rachel's face turned even redder as she raised her voice angrily. In the distance, Emily could see Mark shrinking into himself. Emily felt bad for involving him, but he didn't need to retreat so far. Who do you think you are? Talking back to your boss like that is completely out of line. It's not about being out of line or not, I'm simply stating the fact that when a subordinate makes a mistake, part of the responsibility lies with their supervisor. Isn't it a leader's job to support their team? Rachel fell silent for a moment but quickly retorted. I don't need to do that. If my subordinates mess up, that's their problem, not mine. At that point, Emily realized it was hopeless. A person who couldn't admit that a subordinate's mistake might also be their responsibility didn't seem fit for leadership. Whether Emily's words would resonate or not, she decided to stick to the truth. But by doing that, you're only hindering your team's growth. Shouldn't a supervisor work together with their team to achieve better results? As Emily finished recounting her story, I couldn't help but smile wryly. I'd never met Rachel, but from what Emily had told me, I already had a clear picture of her character. So, what happened after that? Emily, with a similar wry smile, replied. Well, she couldn't win the argument, so she stormed off, fuming. Ever since then, she's made a habit of throwing snide remarks at me whenever she gets the chance. Hearing this, I felt a surge of frustration. What a petty manager. That's infuriating. Rachel sounds incredibly immature. It's completely unfair for you to be targeted just for speaking the truth. Maybe, but I suppose I was also at fault for bruising her pride. I should have chosen a better time and place to talk, maybe somewhere private. No, you did the right thing. You stood up for Amy when she needed support. If you hadn't said anything, she would have been left to endure that unfair scolding. You're not in the wrong, and it's absurd for Rachel to hold that against you. Hearing my firm words, Emily smiled softly. Thank you, honey. But honestly, I just let her comments go in one ear and out the other. I'm fine, really. Besides, you'll be at the gathering. And it's meant to be a celebration. It would be a waste not to enjoy it, right? Her cheerful smile reassured me, and we ended the evening enjoying a quiet dinner together. In the days leading up to the event, I spent time helping Emily pick out an outfit, hoping she'd enjoy the gathering to the fullest. Finally, the day of the event arrived. When Emily stepped into the living room, all dressed up, I couldn't help but stare in awe. She was stunning, even more so than usual. Her usual calm demeanor was elevated by an elegant beauty that left me speechless. Emily, you look amazing. Like a model or a movie star. I said it sincerely, but Emily smiled bashfully and gave a small wave. Oh, stop it. You're exaggerating. But thank you, it means a lot. Feeling a little nervous next to her, I straightened the collar of my suit. How do I look? Do I match up to your level tonight? Emily looked me over with a warm smile and nodded. You look great. About 30% more handsome than usual. Her playful compliment made me grin. Praise from anyone is nice, but hearing it from Emily is always the best. Thanks for that. I feel ready now. Shall we go? Yes, let's go and enjoy ourselves. Hand in hand, we stepped out together. A short 20-minute drive later, we arrived at the venue. The banquet hall was breathtaking, like something straight out of a movie. The high ceilings were adorned with glittering chandeliers, and the tables were decorated with stunning floral arrangements. I took it all in, impressed, before turning to Emily, who was smiling beside me. This is incredible. Hosting the gathering in a place like this, it's so grand. Isn't it? Even I'm surprised. The CEO, Mr. Owens, really pulled out all the stops for this one. They don't usually let us have this, you know? Emily whispered, making me chuckle. After completing the check-in process, we stepped into the venue. Almost immediately, Emily's colleagues and the supervisors who had been helping her came over to greet us. Emily, you look stunning as always. Is this your husband? It's such a pleasure to meet you, we really appreciate everything Emily does for us. I bowed politely and replied, Thank you very much. I'm grateful for all the support you've given my wife. As more and more people came to greet Emily, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride watching her in her element. Emily. Good evening. You look amazing, like a movie star tonight. The woman who cheerfully approached us was introduced by Emily. Thank you. This is Amy. Ah, so this is the girl Emily stood up for. Thinking that, I greeted her with a smile. Amy, who looked like a recent graduate, gave me a friendly smile. Nice to meet you. I'm James, Emily's husband. Thank you so much for always looking after her. As I bowed my head, Amy began to panic. Oh no, not at all. It's Emily who's always helping me. Honestly, without her, I might have quit already. I'm terrible at learning the ropes. Seeing her look so downhearted, I decided to give her a piece of advice. No one is good at their job right from the start. I've seen a lot of people in my career, and to some extent, everyone makes mistakes. What's important is learning from them. Mistakes are part of the experience. And, if you have a boss you really don't like, you could always mess up on purpose and enjoy watching them have to apologize for it. I ended with a mischievous grin, prompting Emily to chime in. James. Really now? Emily couldn't help but laugh, and Amy joined in with a giggle. That's one way to look at it. Ha ha. I see. Amy, don't take that seriously. Emily, your husband is so charming and funny. I hope I can marry someone wonderful like that someday. I'm sure you'll find someone soon. And if you're ever unsure, bring them to the house. My husband has a good eye for people. And he'll make sure to scrutinize them for you. Really? I'll definitely take you up on that offer. Of course. Come by anytime. We watched Amy return to help at the reception desk, and I turned to Emily. Emily, you're so popular. I'm really grateful. When people reach out like this, it makes me feel like all the hard work was worth it. I returned her smile as we strolled through the venue, enjoying this special moment together. We checked the seating chart and headed to our assigned seats. Elegant tables filled the hall, and attendees were chatting amicably at their places. As we approached our table, Emily's expression suddenly stiffened. Emily? That? Following her gaze, I saw something unbelievable. On Emily's name card, to my shock, it read foolish trash. What the hell is this? Anger and shock surged through me at once. This is not just a harmless joke. Someone clearly wrote it with the intent to insult Emily. I looked around and noticed several people glancing our way. This is outrageous. Who did this? Emily was looking down slightly, but she was trying to act strong. However, I could see her hands trembling. It's okay, James, don't worry about it. Despite her words, the sadness in her voice was undeniable. There's no way I can ignore this. This is just cruel. I couldn't hold back my emotions and raised my voice. Emily tried to calm me down, but I could see tears welling up in her eyes. Ah ha ha ha. Accompanied by laughter, Rachel appeared on the scene. She was wearing gaudy, oversized accessories and a flashy dress that looked as if she had time traveled back to the 80s. Her outfit was completely out of place for the atmosphere of the venue, making it obvious at a glance that she didn't belong. Rachel looked at Emily, whose expression was filled with sadness, and began laughing loudly with satisfaction. Oh my, is something wrong? Your place card says foolish trash. Isn't that just perfect for you? Her laughter echoed through the hall, and the atmosphere instantly turned icy. Emily kept her head down. Inside, my anger was boiling over, but I managed to hold it back, forcing myself to speak in a calm and composed tone. Nice to meet you. I'm James, Emily's husband. May I have your name? I kept my tone polite but let my sharp gaze rest on Rachel. She looked surprised for a moment, but soon she regained her confidence, smiling smugly. Me? I'm Rachel. So, you're her husband, huh? How unfortunate for you to witness such an embarrassing moment like this. Just to confirm, are you the one who did this? I made sure to ask. Depending on her answer, my next move would be clear. Yes, I did. Look, no offense, but she's your wife. I don't know how she is at home, but at work? She's useless. Unlike her, I'm successful and hold a respectable position. Rachel laughed loudly, her voice echoing through the room. Ah, I see. I truly envy someone with your level of self-esteem. Being unable to objectively evaluate oneself can be embarrassing. But you've certainly turned it into a strength. Rachel froze for a moment, and as the meaning sank in, her face flushed red with anger. She glared at me, trying to contain her rage, but I wasn't done. You do know it's 2023 now, right? Do you shop at thrift stores specializing in 80s fashion or something? At that, a few chuckles rose from the surrounding guests. Emily tugged gently on my arm, trying to stop me. James, I'm fine, really. Okay? Her voice was tinged with worry, but I gave her a reassuring smile. Just give me a moment. I can't stand by when someone insults you. James. Our exchange seemed to ignite Rachel's temper further. What a rude man you are. You two are unbearable. Especially you, Emily, you're a total failure. Clinging to the same position for years without a promotion, how pathetic. The murmurs around us grew louder, but Rachel didn't stop. And your husband? He's no better. No manners, no sense. People without children are always so clueless. At that, something inside me snapped. What did you just say? The anger I had been suppressing surged like a storm inside me. Those words were absolutely unforgivable. No, I refused to forgive them. I quietly muttered, I see. My face was emotionless, and my voice naturally dropped lower. I could feel the atmosphere freeze instantly as if everyone around me sensed the transformation. This calm, collected version of me was completely gone. Even Rachel seemed to notice the change. Her confidence from earlier had vanished completely. At that moment, memories from what must have been when I was 33 or 34 years old flashed through my mind. Look at that, James. Isn't that baby adorable? Yeah, really cute. How many months old, do you think? Oh, look at that smile. Emily and I love children. We often spent time in parks, watching the kids with warm smiles. We had dreamed of building a family together, and Emily especially longed to have children. But no matter how much we hoped, it wasn't meant to be. Even after medical tests, the cause remained unknown. One night, I noticed Emily crying quietly with her back to me. Her shoulders trembled as she tried to hold in her sobs. I reached out to her gently. Emily, what's wrong? After a moment of silence, she spoke in a small voice. I'm sorry, James. If I weren't your wife, you might have had a child by now. Her words felt like a knife to my chest. I knew she had been blaming herself, but hearing her say it out loud broke my heart. Emily, don't say that. Having a child might have been wonderful, but the most important thing to me is having you by my side. I held her gently, but her body continued to tremble. I can't give you anything, James. That's not true, Emily. Not at all. Just having you with me makes me happier than I could ever express. Being with you is what matters most to me. Whether we have children or not doesn't change our happiness. My feelings for you will never change. I gently stroked Emily's back. Her tears didn't stop, but I held her tightly until she finally calmed down. Thinking back to that moment reignited my fury toward Rachel, who had cruelly hurt Emily. Just as I was about to coldly confront Rachel, a firm voice called out from behind me. What's going on here? I turned to see Robert Owens, the president of Mitchell House, where Emily worked, stepping into the room. He seemed to have noticed the unusual tension in the atmosphere. However, when his gaze fell on me, his face instantly turned pale. Mr. Kennedy. His voice trembled, and the murmurs among the employees in the room grew louder. The tension in the air became palpable. Why is Mr. Kennedy here? What's going on? It's been a while, Mr. Owens. My wife was invited to this gathering, so I decided to join her. Thank you for always looking after my wife. I bowed slightly as I spoke. Emily, is Mr. Kennedy's wife? Well, Emily has been with the company for 20 years, but if I recall correctly, Mr. Owens came in from outside. It's understandable that he doesn't know every employee's family details or even their spouse's occupation. Mr. Owens quickly turned to the surrounding employees, demanding an explanation. The employees whispered something to each other, and as Mr. Owens listened, his face instantly turned red with anger. Rachel! What have you done? His furious voice echoed through the venue, and Rachel's expression shifted to one of shock and fear. What? Mr. Owens? Mr. Owens stormed toward Rachel, his face a mix of outrage and disbelief. How dare you insult Mr. Kennedy and his wife, Emily, like this? This behavior is absolutely unacceptable. He snatched the offensive name card, "Foolish Trash," from Emily's table and tore it into pieces in front of everyone. Rachel, flustered and desperate, opened her mouth as if to make an excuse, but no words came out. Seeing this, Mr. Owens's anger only grew. Mr. Kennedy, that's the man behind that project. That's right. Do you realize what you've done? Mr. Owens's furious reprimands filled the hall as he continued berating Rachel. Watching someone angrier than me oddly calmed my own emotions. Taking a quiet breath, I carefully chose my next words. Mr. Owens, I'll leave things here for now. But let me make one thing very clear, I find this incident deeply regrettable. Hearing this, Mr. Owens hurriedly stepped in front of me and bowed deeply. Mr. Kennedy, I sincerely apologize. I cannot express how sorry I am for Rachel's disrespectful behavior. But please, I beg you, don't abandon the project. This is a crucial endeavor for our company's future. Yes. What Mr. Owens was talking about was a new concept, a project aimed at launching a brand of newly built homes that embraced the idea of choosing any lifestyle you want. Families with children, couples without kids, those living alone, or even shared housing. This innovative home building concept focused on respecting diverse ways of living. I personally felt a deep connection to this philosophy. I was also very supportive of that project. The idea that any family structure is acceptable perfectly aligns with today's world. Whether it's a family with children, a couple without kids, or someone living alone, creating a space where anyone can feel safe and comfortable is an outstanding concept. I shared my genuine thoughts about the initiative. Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Owens looked relieved, as though he had been granted a reprieve. But I couldn't overlook what had happened. However, incidents like this make it difficult to move forward together. Mr. Owens's face turned ashen. He looked at me with desperation. My company, Emily Interiors, held the largest market share in the domestic interior industry. Without our involvement, Mitchell House's project would collapse before it even started. Rachel remained frozen, speechless, and wide-eyed. Mr. Owens opened his mouth to plead, but it was already too late. "Emily, let's go." I gently took Emily's hand again and quietly began to walk. Mr. Owens's voice, apologizing over and over, echoed behind us, but I didn't look back. When we got home, a moment of silence hung between us. Emily calmly took off her coat and sat down on the sofa. A soft sigh escaped her lips. Her eyes reflected her exhaustion, yet her expression seemed relieved. After hesitating a bit, I sat down next to Emily. Then, I opened my mouth to speak. "Emily, I'm sorry. I know how much effort you've put into your work at that company, and yet I caused such a scene today. I knew exactly how hard she had worked and how much she had given to that place. But after what happened today, I couldn't just stand by silently. But I couldn't forgive Rachel. Watching her treat you like that, I couldn't let it slide. I had acted out of a desire to protect Emily, but I also understood the potential repercussions for her. I wasn't sure if what I'd done had helped her or caused more harm. I wanted to know how she felt, but I was afraid of the answer." Emily looked thoughtful for a moment, then gave me a soft smile. "Tomorrow's going to be messy at work. Maybe I should take the day off." She gently held my hand and spoke quietly. "Thank you. Because you stood up for me, I felt so saved. If you hadn't been there, if I'd been alone, I don't know what would have happened. I'm really grateful." Her words filled me with warmth. Emily was grateful to me for protecting her. That fact was the greatest comfort to me above anything else. "Emily, I'll always protect you. No matter what happens, if anyone tries to hurt you, I won't let them get away with it." She rested her head on my shoulder, looking comforted. "Thank you, James." Her voice was soft but carried a warmth that reached my heart. We knew we were tired and should rest, but for a while, we simply stayed like that. The next day, I decided to take the day off too. I'm truly grateful to have such an excellent team, including the capable vice president. It's times like these that make me realize how helpful they are. When I told them about what happened yesterday, the usually mild-mannered Vice President Stevens was absolutely furious and said something heartwarming: "Make sure to pamper your wife properly. Here's your coffee." "Thanks." We were enjoying a quiet morning when, around 11 a.m., the doorbell rang. When I checked the intercom, Mr. Owens was standing there. Emily and I exchanged a glance before opening the door. "Good morning, Mr. Kennedy, Emily." I apologize for the sudden visit, but I needed to apologize in person. Mr. Owens bowed deeply and repeated his apologies several times. We invited him in and offered him a seat on the sofa. Even as he sat, he continued to apologize, looking visibly exhausted. As we listened quietly, I asked what was on my mind. "What happened to Rachel?" Mr. Owens sighed briefly before responding with a serious expression. "She has been held accountable. She's been fired." Emily looked slightly surprised, but I wasn't. From a business perspective, the consequences of my decision to sever ties with Mitchell House were significant. Beyond financial losses, the impact on their reputation and relationships was considerable. In fact, many employees were deeply resentful of Rachel. The one who was most outraged was Amy. She led a group of employees into my office. "This is unacceptable. You must apologize to Emily immediately, and Rachel must be dismissed. If not, I'm resigning." When Amy said that, more than 20 others followed, submitting their resignation letters on the spot. At the same time, they presented me with a thick file documenting in detail everything Rachel had said and done to them over the years. Resignation letters? They went that far? Emily's eyes grew moist, and I gently squeezed her hand. Mr. Owens continued. After reviewing the documents, there was no justification to keep Rachel at the company. That's why we decided to terminate her. Emily listened, and I could see how deeply moved she was. Her colleagues, led by Amy, had stood up for her. That fact overwhelmed her with emotion, and tears began to stream down her face. Everyone, they did this for me. Through her tears, Emily bowed deeply to Mr. Owens. Thank you. I'm truly touched by what everyone did for me. Mr. Owens nodded slightly and spoke to Emily. Our company needs you not as the wife of the president of Emily Interiors, but as the hard-working professional who has been with us since her graduation. Please, return to the company. Everyone is waiting for you. He bowed deeply again before leaving. After seeing him off, I returned to the living room. Emily sat on the sofa, closing her eyes and taking a deep breath. Everyone truly cares about you, Emily, I said as I gently placed a hand on her shoulder. She smiled through her tears. Yes. I'm so grateful. You know, Emily hesitated, and I couldn't help but chuckle. She didn't need to look so nervous. It's about the project, isn't it? You want me to reconsider? Yes. Seeing her tense expression, I decided to be honest. To be frank, I can't forgive Rachel. No, that's not right. I won't forgive her, no matter how much she apologizes. But there are so many people at your company who genuinely care about you and stood up for you. That's why I'll support this project. Not for the company, but as a way to repay Amy and the others for their loyalty. But there won't be a next time. Emily's face lit up with joy. Really? Thank you. I'm so happy. Emily's genuinely happy expression. Although, to be honest, there are still parts of my emotions I haven't fully sorted out. Seeing her face like this makes me feel certain that this must be the right choice. I immediately called Mr. Owens to inform him of my decision to support the project. Over the phone, Mr. Owens was overwhelmed with gratitude, tearfully apologizing and thanking me repeatedly. I made sure to emphasize that this was a one-time exception. By the way, Vice President Stevens laughed at me. Honestly, you devoted husbands are something else. He added with a grin, I mean, you even went as far as naming the company after your wife. Yeah. I'm weak when it comes to Emily. But honestly, it's more about paying back the people who stood by her. Oh, don't worry, we all know how much you adore her. But please, stop gushing, it's too much. Alright, bye. For some reason, he spoke rapidly and then hung up the phone. I gave a wry smile, thinking, I haven't even started bragging yet. James. Are you ready to watch it now? Yeah, I'm coming. I headed to the living room when Emily called me. We were about to watch the memorial video. Mr. Owens had brought over a video we hadn't been able to see during the event. It began with a professional-looking opening, clearly created by someone skilled. Wow, look at me. I'm so young. This is a little embarrassing. On the living room TV, Emily's 20-year journey was being displayed. From her younger days to the present, images of her working hard played one after another, and I couldn't help but smile. There was Emily in her 20s, waving toward the camera, and another of her working intently at her desk. Emily, you've truly worked so hard. I respect you even more now. Emily smiled bashfully, squeezing my hand. Thank you, James. Let's keep supporting each other from now on. I squeezed her hand firmly in return. Of course. I'm looking forward to it. As I watched her image on the screen, I felt a deep sense of gratitude and pride. And we reaffirmed that we will continue to support each other as we move forward together. That is the shape of our marriage. My name is Tucker. I'm an executive in a group called the White Lotus Family. This is largely because my wife, Sammy, is the leader of the White Lotus family, and I help support her in that role. However, the fact that my wife is the leader of the White Lotus family is not public knowledge. Only a handful of people are aware of her position. No one would suspect that the rumored strong leader of the White Lotus family is actually a woman. Today, Sammy and I were invited to a wedding of someone she knows, and we plan to attend together. When we arrived at the venue and started looking through the seating chart, I finally found my wife's name card. Someone had written "ugly fat pig" on it. Damn it! Who would do something like this? Unforgivable. I clenched the card in my fist in frustration. Don't be so angry. It's nothing to get worked up about. It's someone else's wedding today, so we can't cause a scene. Just let it go, Sammy said calmly as she took her seat. As she sat down, a man approached us, smirking. "A lonely seat like that suits you," said Mickey, a former classmate of ours. He was someone Sammy knew from high school. It was true that the women at his table were all strikingly beautiful. "Well, I see you were invited too. Go about your business, no need to report to me." "What? You're just going to brush me off like that? How can you even show up at a wedding like this? You're totally out of place here. You should just leave before the ceremony starts." Sammy's indifferent response only irritated Mickey further, and the people around us laughed along with him. "Looks like I'll have to shut him up," I muttered to myself, ready to step in, but Sammy stopped me. "I'm fine. Let's just turn a blind eye for today. If you're too scared to fight back, then don't start acting tough in the first place. By the way, I'm the one who wrote that name card for you. How do you like it? Doesn't it suit someone like you perfectly? Why would you do something like that? My wife isn't scared, she just doesn't think you're worth responding to." "What? Are you her husband? So even someone like you managed to get married. Good for you, getting picked up. But man, you must really have bad taste to marry someone like her. And she must have terrible judgment to settle for a loser like you. If you keep being disrespectful, we'll have to take action. Why are you so intent on targeting my wife? Do you have a grudge against her? What? Are you threatening me? What kind of action do you think you can take? Go ahead, try me." I've never liked her, always acting calm and composed. Looking down on me. She even embarrassed me once back in school. Ever since then, I've hated her and wanted to put her in her place. When I heard she was attending this wedding, I thought it was the perfect opportunity for a little surprise. Holding on to something from so long ago? You really haven't grown at all, have you? Acting like this at your age is pathetic, Sammy replied. What did you say? You better watch your mouth, or you'll regret it. You know who I am now? I'm a mafia. If I get serious, I can make you disappear. You really want to keep that attitude with me? So, you're a mafia now. That's right. You must be terrified, huh? If you cross me, it won't just be me, my boss and crew might come after you too. But honestly, I don't even need them. I can handle you myself. Mickey looked smug, reveling in his newfound identity. Mickey, having been drinking, was completely drunk. His insults toward my wife escalated more and more. Hey, why don't you pour me a drink? Maybe I'll even drink with you if I feel like it. Or are you saying you're not up for it? Mickey laughed as he placed his hand on Sammy's shoulder. What do you think you're doing? You've had too much to drink. Get away from my wife and step back. You'll regret this if you don't stop. What? The weakling husband thinks he can scare me? Do you really think I'm going to back off because of you? Do your worst. But it won't work on me. Mickey laughs as he bashes my shoulder. This isn't your event, is it? The ceremony is about to start, so could you calm down? Don't act so familiar with me. Who do you think you're ordering around? You're only this confident for now, but you'll regret it soon. Nobody here is on your side. What can you possibly do? Mickey's harassment didn't let up. Please, stop this. I don't want to cause trouble for the people here. You're here to celebrate too, aren't you? If you really want to settle this with me, we can arrange a time later. But not today, please. What? I don't have time to waste on someone like you. I'm not here for the wedding. I paid for this, so I can do whatever I want. Look at your shabby clothes, isn't that more disrespectful than what I'm doing? Why don't you ask the beauties here to ask them what to do? No matter what you wear, you'll always look miserable though. You're crossing the line. Enough is enough. I'm fine. I can handle it. Just stay quiet. That's right, stay quiet and do as I say. If you understand, answer me. Come on, answer. Why are you letting him get away with this? Nobody in the venue knew that Sammy was the leader of the White Lotus family. While she remained composed, as a true leader would, I found myself nearing my breaking point, frustrated by Mickey's relentless provocation. If I reveal that Sammy is the leader of the White Lotus family, he'll definitely shut up. No question about it. But that would cause a huge scene. I can't ruin this wedding. What should I do? What's with the silence? Do you get it now? If you understand, get down on your knees and apologize. Say, I'm sorry for being so insolent toward someone like you, and say it loud. Miss Saxon, shall we leave? Yes. Realizing there was no point in reasoning with this guy anymore, I whispered to my wife, and she seemed to agree. Remember this well. I'll make sure you regret this. It's too late for any apologies now. Get ready for what's coming. Oh? Still talking tough? What's this? Finally deciding to leave? Just as my wife and I stood up and were about to exit the venue, an unexpected figure walked in. This person, who had overheard everything, seemed determined to drag Mickey straight into hell. As we reached for the door, it opened before we could touch it. Standing there was someone Mickey clearly didn't expect to see. Huh? Molly? What are you doing here? Standing in the doorway was Molly, Mickey's girlfriend. She ignored his attempt to address her and ran straight to my wife. Miss Saxon. It's been so long. I've missed you. Molly approached my wife, saying that. And she hugged my wife with familiarity. Hey, don't mention here that I am the leader. It's fine. I'll make sure to remind everyone to keep their mouths shut when this is over. And anyone who can't follow that will be dealt with. Molly whispered to my wife as she embraced her. Molly? Why are you ignoring me? What's going on here? Don't talk to me so casually, you lowlife mafia. Mickey was visibly confused, unable to comprehend why Molly was berating him. Her demeanor was completely different from the Molly he thought he knew. What's with the attitude? You're acting like a completely different person. Yesterday you were normal. Did I do something wrong? The same was true for Mickey, whose attitude was as different as it could be. That's funny. This is the real me. I heard all the annoying crap you've been spouting earlier. Huh? Annoying crap? What are you talking about? Oh, don't even try to deny it. Acting all innocent now? You've been pretending this whole time, haven't you? The way you were talking earlier. That's the real you, right? Pathetic. What are you talking about? Are you misunderstanding something? Anyway, do you know Sammy? She and I are classmates. Right, Sammy? After all his insults toward my wife, Mickey shamelessly tried to act friendly again. Classmates, sure, but that's all it is. Don't go acting friendly and using my name so casually. What? Who do you think you're talking to? Mickey's patience snapped, and he revealed his true colors, his irritation evident. Oh, are you sure you want to keep acting like that? Do you even know who she really is? You're playing with fire, Mickey. You'll regret it. What do you mean? I don't understand what you've been saying. Are you sure it's okay to reveal this here? Yes, it's fine. Molly will ensure everyone here keeps their mouths shut. There's no use hiding it anymore. Are you really sure? Once I say it, it'll be over for you, Mickey. Ha! I'm a mafia. Like I'm going to flinch at some ordinary person. An ordinary person? This woman is Miss Saxon, the leader of the White Lotus family. The legendary leader. You've picked a fight with the wrong person. Hearing this, every mafia in the room turned pale. What? The leader of the White Lotus family? You're telling me it's her, not her husband? Mickey collapsed to his knees in shock. What's the matter? Weren't you the one who wasn't going to flinch? Pathetic. Are you scared now? This can't be. I always thought the leader of the White Lotus family was a man. And barely anyone is supposed to know their true identity. Are you planning to get rid of me now that I know? Trembling, Mickey asked my wife. If necessary, yes. I replied calmly. My composure only made Mickey more panicked. So, who are you then? Are you just some ordinary guy? Me? I'm pretty much just a regular person. Though I'm currently supporting my wife as an executive in the White Lotus family. Why? Wait, why is Molly connected to that woman? Your ages are different. And there's no way an ordinary person could know Miss Saxon of the White Lotus family. And since you got here, you've been nothing like the Molly I know. You better stop calling her that woman right now. Molly grabbed Mickey's hair and shook his head violently. Hey! What are you doing? Let me go. This woman saved my life. She is someone I deeply respect. So if anyone insults her or makes fun of her, I might take some action. Molly said with a chilling smile right in front of Mickey's face. Where's the Molly I know? Did she brainwash you or something? This isn't you, right? Mickey stammered, trying to divert the conversation. His bravado from earlier is now completely gone. Stop with this ridiculous act already. It's pathetic and makes me sick. Do you plan to keep pretending and hiding your true self just to keep someone like her? Shut up. Who do you think you're talking to? The leader of the White Lotus family? So what? All that legend nonsense is just a rumor, right? I bet you're just riding on your husband's protection while you're nothing but deadweight yourself. Mickey's frustration boiled over, unable to tolerate my wife's composed demeanor. But as quickly as he lost control, he tried to compose himself, fearing he'd lose face in front of Molly. If Molly sees me like this, everything I worked for to get her to marry me will go up in smoke. I can't let that happen. Mickey, what do you mean by the Molly I know? I've told you, this is the real me. Did you really think I didn't see through you? I heard everything. I'm here today to celebrate a friend's wedding, but you're ruining a special day with your nonsense. Let's step outside. This isn't the place for this, and you're disturbing everyone. Ruin the day? I had no such intention. And what do you mean you heard everything? What are you talking about? Ignoring his attempts to justify himself, Molly grabbed him by the collar and dragged him into a nearby waiting room with us. Now then. What were we talking about? Oh yes. Are you seriously going to pretend you don't know? If I can somehow get this woman to marry me, I'll have access to her family's money. Her family's rich, and once I've bled her dry, I'll divorce her. Care to explain that? Molly pulled out a voice recorder and played the incriminating audio. What? This is fake. Someone's trying to frame me. Molly, I'm your boyfriend, right? You believe me, don't you? Boyfriend? Excuse me? We're not even dating. I thought you were delusional, but to actually think we were together? You seriously believe that? Do you think I'd choose someone like you? Don't flatter yourself. I only stayed close to you for my own purposes. It was obvious you had ulterior motives, so I played along. What? You tricked me? Tricked you? Don't make it sound so dramatic. Oh, and in case you've forgotten, let me remind you again. This is the leader of the White Lotus family. You won't just be out of the syndicate, you're done for. It's over. Exactly. I tried to let it slide because this was a wedding, but you've crossed the line. You insulted me to my face, and now you'll pay. Prepare yourself. Wait. What's going on? I don't understand. Was this all a setup to take me down? Did you plan this from the start? Ha! Don't flatter yourself. The world doesn't revolve around you. Your insults were unexpected, sure. But I endured them for the sake of not causing a scene. I was about to leave quietly when Molly showed up at just the right moment. Call it divine intervention, maybe? Then, if I hadn't messed with you, none of this would have happened? Maybe so. Damn it. You've always had to have the last laugh. If you hadn't come here, none of this would have happened. You always ruin everything for me. You're pathetic. I said, my patience finally snapping. I grabbed Mickey by the collar and started choking him. Ow. Stop. Let go of me. See? You're the reason why people say she's invincible, right? Stop. I can't breathe. Wrong. If you think I'm the strong one, you're mistaken. My wife is in a league of her own. Want her to deal with you? She'd crush you in an instant. With that, I landed several punches square on Mickey's face. Ah. For all your big talk, you're nothing. You're not even worth my time. Pathetic. You really are weak. And you call yourself a mafia? I hate weak men. Just so you know, none of this was a coincidence. I've been investigating you. That's why I approached you. And you fell right into the trap. You thought you'd marry me for my father's wealth? As if. You're not even in my league. I hate men like you. Get lost. Everyone's looking down on me. Screw this. If it's come to this, I don't care anymore. Mickey, in a fit of rage, grabbed Molly by the neck, holding her hostage. Ha, what do you think you're going to do to me? What are you going to do now? If you don't kneel and apologize to me, this woman's going to pay. Hurry up. Kneel. Mickey. Do you really think this is a good idea? You should worry about yourself. Something much worse is coming for you. What? What do you mean? What are you talking about? Are you scared? Miss Saxon, don't even entertain this fool. The one we're waiting for should be here any moment now. What? Who's coming? At that moment, the door to the waiting room opened. A man stood there, and Mickey's face froze in horror. What now? Who is it this time? Mickey tried to maintain his composure, but his voice betrayed his panic. Long time no see. Why is Mr. Kitch himself here? Mr. Kitch? What the hell? What's going on here? Who is he? What? You're a mafia, and you don't even know Mr. Kitch, the leader of the Blue Wolf Syndicate? How the hell are you even managing to survive in this world? Ignorance is terrifying. The leader of the Blue Wolf Syndicate? That's a huge organization, isn't it? What the hell is happening today? Mickey was drenched in sweat, visibly panicking. So what if he is? What difference does it make? What are you doing with my daughter? Get your filthy hands off her, now. Daughter? Don't tell me. Molly's father is the leader of the Blue Wolf Syndicate? Exactly. Seizing the moment of distraction, Molly grabbed Mickey's arm and flipped him over her shoulder in a clean judo throw. Ugh. What the hell? Since when could you do judo? Given my family, I was taught self-defense. Now, what's your plan, huh? You've got some nerve messing with my daughter and insulting the person who saved her life. Are you ready to face the consequences? Consequences? What are you talking about? You didn't think you'd get off scot-free, did you? The more we dig into your background, the filthier it gets. It's time we straighten out that rotten attitude of yours. As he spoke, several large men dressed in black entered the room. What now? Mickey tried to use the commotion as an opportunity to escape, but the men quickly grabbed him. Let go of me. What are you planning to do? The men held him down and began beating him mercilessly. Mickey's screams echoed through the waiting room. This is just a greeting, but we're far from done. The ceremony's about to start. So we'll change the place and take our time deciding what to do with you. Isn't this enough? What more do you want? Ignoring his protests, one of the men knocked him unconscious with a well-placed punch. Molly returned to the wedding hall alone and addressed the crowd who had mocked my wife. Hey! You all heard the screams, didn't you? Listen up. You're just as guilty for laughing along with that piece of trash. I don't care how pretty your faces are now, who knows what they'll look like if you don't shut your mouths about what happened here. Forget everything. Erase it from your empty little brains. I'll let you off the hook, but if I hear even a whisper, I'll track you down no matter where you are. Don't think for a second you'll get away with it. The moment you talk, I'll be there. Got it? Grabbing one of the women by the hair, she hissed her warning in her ear. The women were trembling, tears streaming down their faces. Well, are you going to answer me or what? Yes, yes. They mumbled, shaking and sweating profusely. Afterwards, my wife, Molly, Mr. Kitch, and I moved to the Blue Wolf Syndicate's office, dragging Mickey along. Hey! Wake up! Stop sleeping. Where am I? Welcome to the Blue Wolf Syndicate's office. Why am I here? Let me go. That's not happening. Didn't I tell you? If it came to this, you'd disappear. That you know Miss Saxon's identity is a liability for us. Right. Miss Saxon? That's right. If we let someone like you walk free, rumors will spread like wildfire. Honestly, I was holding back at the wedding. But now I don't see why I shouldn't finish you off. You insulted me in front of everyone, surely you're as strong as you claim, right? If you can't even defend yourself, well, you know what happens. Are you ready? Before Mickey could respond, my wife pinned him down and landed punch after punch to his face and stomach. Though Mickey tried to resist, her blows landed cleanly, leaving his face a swollen, bruised mess. Impressive. She was the one who stood alone against that large group and saved my daughter. You truly live up to the legend. But you, Mickey, what a disgrace. Are you even a man? And which family do you belong to? She is crazy. The Red Lion family under Mr. Ackerman. The Red Lion family, huh? I know Mr. Ackerman well. Disrespecting the daughter of one leader and her benefactor. You're as good as excommunicated. Excommunicated? Isn't that going too far? It was just a joke. A joke? You saw my daughter as nothing but a meal ticket. If you were sincere about courting her, that's one thing. But someone like you? Get lost. In our world, respect and loyalty are everything. You failed at both. You've been scheming in the shadows too, haven't you? You're a disgrace. And we've uncovered everything. Do you really think excommunication is the worst of it? You're headed straight for ruin. Exactly. I can't stand weak men like you. You're delusional. Good riddance. You messed with the wrong people. We warned you. Damn it. I'm not going down like this. Even if I'm excommunicated, I'll claw my way back. I'll keep coming after you. Oh. Still full of energy, are you? Maybe I went too easy on him. Despite his battered face and broken spirit, Mickey still hadn't learned his lesson. My wife grabbed Mickey by the collar, determined to silence him completely. Come on, fight back. Or are you scared? Scared? Hell no. Don't underestimate me. Mickey swung at her, but she dodged effortlessly. Losing his balance, he stumbled, and in a swift move, she tripped him, sending him sprawling to the ground. You're seriously this weak? I'm fighting you in heels, and you can't even keep up. This is pathetic. Oh, and by the way, you haven't apologized yet. Ideally, I'd like you to get on your knees and beg, but I'll settle for a straightforward apology. Go on. She straddled him, tightening her grip on his collar. Can't breathe. What? You've got something more important to say, don't you? If you don't start talking, this might just be the end for you. Ah. So, still refusing? If that's how you want to play it, I won't hold back. Fine. I'll apologize. Please, forgive me. Don't drag it out. Say it already. I'm so sorry. Your voice is still small, but I'll let it slide. She released her grip, and Mickey collapsed to the floor, coughing and gasping for air. You really got what you deserved. By the way, while you were getting your ass handed to you, I contacted Mr. Ackerman. Unsurprisingly, he couldn't care less about a lowlife like you being excommunicated. He said your punishment is entirely up to us. He's more worried about the family's reputation than your sorry existence. You've officially been abandoned. No. This can't be happening. Everything I've done up until now. It's all meaningless? That's right. And just so you know, excommunication isn't the worst of it. You're out of the family, out of a job, and out of chances. Be grateful you're even alive, though. We'll see how long that lasts. From now on, you'll be working under the Blue Wolf Syndicate's orders. Consider it poetic just tick. You'll be treated the same way you treated others. Remember that. Mickey stared blankly, realizing his life as he knew it was over. He remained silent, his gaze fixed on the ground. Mr. Kitch, thank you for coming all this way. And Molly, thank you, too. I wasn't sure what to do, so you really helped me out. Don't mention it. This was nothing. I just happened to be keeping an eye on him, and it led to this. I'm glad I could repay some of the debt I owe you. Still, you've gotten really strong. That shoulder throw was impressive. You even surprised me. I've been practicing, but now I'm training to follow in Miss Saxon's footsteps. They shared a laugh, and the long day finally came to an end. As for Mickey, stripped of everything, he was sent overseas to assist in the Blue Wolf Syndicate's business ventures. Even there, he continued to boast, I used to be a mafia, a claim that earned him nothing but ridicule. His arrogance only made him a bigger target. And he endured daily beatings, a living example of the saying, keep your head down. The price of making enemies out of both Miss Saxon of the White Lotus family and Mr. Kitch of the Blue Wolf Syndicate was steep. Whether Mickey ever comes to regret his actions remains to be seen. As for me, I continued supporting my wife in her role. Despite the public revelation at the wedding, it seems Molly and Mr. Kitch managed to keep my identity under wraps. I'm grateful for their help. They probably scared everyone stiff. Still, I heard there were some idiots who tried to leak the story. It's a huge scoop, after all. But I also heard Mr. Kitch handled it behind the scenes. Some of those people have disappeared. Of course. I couldn't let such a trivial event expose Miss Saxon. It's all been taken care of, so rest assured. I'll continue to serve you. You're not even mafia, Molly. But I truly appreciate everything you've done this time. And so, the true identity of Miss Saxon of the White Lotus family remains shrouded in mystery.